guess I'm gonna have to hitchhike. I'm gonna let my little girl know I'll just be gone overnight. Look out.
Good morning. Tampa City Council now come to order. City Council workshop for October 28, 2021. And I believe we have Mr. Dingfelder down at the bottom for the invocation and the pledge. I hear a lot of noise down there, so we want to ask everybody if we can tone it down a little bit so we can be able to hear, and also the citizens watching can be able to hear as well. Mr. Dingfelder, you down there, sir? Ooh, man, actually, his truck is here. Miss Brandon, can you do me a wonderful favor? Could you go down to that second floor and see if Mr. Dingfelder's there, one, and two, tell the crowd we're ecstatic they're here, but we need quiet, though. Thank you so much. Because probably Debbie's down there, she probably can't hear either.
Mr. Chairman, pardon my absence, but was council, we're past the roll call. Is that correct?
No, sir, we're nowhere near that, sir. We're just now getting to the invocation, Mr. Dingfelder coming to the podium.
Understood.
So we have not started yet.
And there are several signs downstairs, Mr. Chairman.
And that's why I sent Mr. Vieira's aide down there to tell the crowd that to adhere to the signs and be courteous to the speakers who are inside speaking in the booth. That must happen. We've had several complaints about that, so we're just asking everyone's cooperation. Good morning, Mr. Dingfelder.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, how are you? Yeah,
Morning,
it was so noisy out there. I didn't hear the school bell. Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Reverend James T. Golden, Esquire, not only a reverend but a fine attorney. Reverend James T. Golden is currently a pastor at Mount Zion AME Church in Port Tampa. He's the social action coordinator for Florida and the Bahamas for the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the AME Church. He's married to Mildred Moten Golden, and they have a blended family of 6 children and 13 grandchildren. He earned his Bachelor's of Business from Stetson University, his Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Florida, go Gators, and his Master's of Divinity from Atlanta University, Atlanta, Georgia. He's a Vietnam-era veteran and a member of the Florida Bar since 1975. He's currently, as I said, the Social Action Coordinator for the AME Church. He's chairman of the Board of Directors of Centerstone Behavioral Health in Manatee County, Centerstone of America Foundation board member, and a former member of the Board of Directors for Meals on Wheels in Manatee and Just for Girls of Manatee. He served 2 terms as a member of the Bradenton City Council, so he feels our pain. In September 2007, he was chosen by Congresswoman Kathy Castor to deliver the morning invocation to the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. He's been with us in Tampa at the Mount Zion AME in Port Tampa for about 8 years. We welcome Reverend James T. Gordon.
Morning, sir.
Golden, excuse me.
If I might, Chair, I'm going to ask those of you who are listening, wherever you may be, if you would leave from your comfort zone and just reach out to the nearest human being to you and touch them as we bow our heads in a word of prayer. Oh God, grant us a vision of our city, fair as she might be, a city of justice where none shall prey on others, a city of plenty where vice and poverty shall cease to fester, a city of brotherhood and sisterhood where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to nobleness alone, a city of peace where order shall not rest on force but in the love of all for the city, the great mother of common life and weal. Hear, O God, our time and be our strength and thought to speed the day of her coming beauty and righteousness as we pray this prayer with all of our hearts together. And those who would agree said, Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America. To the republic. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
I just want to say, Reverend Golden's church is one of the churches that I go to, and I've said this before, but in case somebody's watching for the first time, it's a really important historic church in Tampa because it was in the original port area, and it has a rich history of people that have oral stories and traditions, but it's an important building. Also, it was hit by lightning over the last year or so, and the steeple fell off. But even though it's a traditionally black church, everybody is invited from across the city to attend, and I encourage everyone to go one Sunday and see everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Carlson,
Here.
Maniscalco,
Here.
Dingfelder,
Here.
Citro,
Here.
Vieira, Miranda,
Here.
Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Please note Mr. Vieira is on his way. He's a few minutes late, but he did notify us he's on his way. Mr. Shelby, we do the honors this morning, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of Tampa City Council. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Today is the 28th day of October of 2021, and we are here at the workshop. And during this workshop, during the COVID-19 state of emergency, it is being conducted with a live in-person quorum of the City Council present here in City Council chambers on the 3rd floor of 315 East Kennedy Boulevard. However, in response to the COVID-19 restrictions, members of the public are encouraged to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. Now, Council, the public is able to virtually participate using CMT by sending written comments, by internet, by email, by U.S. mail, by speaking remotely during today's workshop, at the start of the workshop per Council's direction with the use of CMT. And those instructions are available in the notice and also on the City Council's website at tampa.gov/City Council. Now, for those who wish to use CMT but don't have it available at home or remotely, they can come here to 315 East Kennedy Boulevard and use the facilities that are on the 2nd floor. And please note that use of masks and social distancing inside the building are required. And consistent with these rules that have been adopted for today's hybrid hearing, I'd ask that you make a motion to waive the rules and adopt the rules as stated in the notice
Who
and
waived?
on the website.
Mr. Miranda has moved it. Maniscalco second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Thank you, Mr. Shelby. All right, we'll go to item number 1, presentation, Police Officer of the Month. See, Interim Chief Delgado coming up.
Sir.
Waiting on Mr. Citro. I think he's heading down, folks. All right.
Mr. Chair,
You're recognized, sir.
I thank you very much for this opportunity. And as many people have heard me say over and over and over again, that if you want to see what these brave women and men of the Tampa Police Department do, please attend the Citizens Police Academy for the city of Tampa, Florida, and you will experience everything that they go through. But even in those experiences, you're just scratching the surface. Today we're here with, excuse me, with this officer, Officer Jessica Taylor. She is this month's recipient of Officer of the Month. And as you can see behind her, she has her lovely family and all the other people that she has worked with her squad. But I'm going to let our Chief Delgado explain to us the reason why she has been chosen as Officer of the Month. Chief?
Thank you, sir. Morning, Council. Ruben Delgado, the Interim Chief for DPD, and with me I have Officer Taylor with me as well. So Officer Taylor's, she's been with us for about 6 years, and she's currently assigned to District 1 and she helps out with the Layton Investigative Squad, so the detectives of D1. She's currently assigned to them, helping them out on some cases. And recently, she was assigned a robbery case where a $9,000 ring was stolen from a jewelry store in International Mall. Very little leads on the case. She started looking at other cases that kind of matched the same MO, and she was able to find another case with a similar suspect based on the video. Her investigation linked it to another offense. She decided to contact the Tampa Bay Regional Intelligence Center, which is a fusion center for the county and the area where all of the leads for cases go, and they kind of share information. So she contacted them soon to find out that there was other cases involving videos that matched the same suspect. So she continued to basically contacted 7 different police agencies and looked at every one of their reports, all of their evidence in their case, and was able to develop a lead in our case based off some video and some car information that ultimately led to the identification. She went and did the photo packs and arrested the suspect in our case from all the work she did with the 7 other agencies. She then went a little further than that. She was able to find, with the help of our plainclothes unit, our SAC squad and D1, that some of them are behind me there, they were able to find the suspect, arrest him, execute some search warrants, which led to information on 18 cases statewide. So she's now working with the statewide prosecutor's office on this case to solidify the 18 cases that they've now developed statewide that this suspect was responsible for in the theft. So she's quickly proven her valuable as a valuable member to the District 1 crime fight. She's displayed great initiative in this case and taking the lead. We're not just solving our case, but going above and beyond with the Fusion Center and solving 18 other cases statewide. So due to her diligence and persistence during this investigation, this criminal was caught and is no longer on the loose, and in recognition for her outstanding service to the community and to District 1, Officer Jessica Taylor has been selected for Officer of the Month for October 2021. Congratulations. Good job. Good work.
Thank you, Chief. Officer Taylor. You have been chosen to be receive this commendation for Officer of the Month, October 2021, because of your dedication to service, your commitment to excellence, and going above and beyond the call of duty. You have been chosen for this mark of distinction as Officer of the Month. Tampa City Council, your peers, and your superiors would like to commend you for your dedication and diligence. We recognize the commitment to serving your community, being a devoted investigator, skilled problem solver, and an invaluable member of the District 1 team. It is the honor of Tampa City Council to present Officer Jessica Taylor with this commendation on this day, the 28th day of October 2021. Congratulations to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. It's a little bit different with the COVIDs, but I appreciate everyone being here. I just want to say thank you to City Council, the Chief, where's this corner? Chief Delgado, the entire staff of District 1, and my family. I couldn't do this without the support of my husband, so I thank him for being here, as well as my mother-in-law and my son and my daughter that wasn't able to be here today. It is an honor to receive this award and be able to represent the Tampa Police Department. It is a privilege to be able to serve this community by conducting investigations that allow me to help the citizens of Tampa Bay as well as other jurisdictions. I've been very honored to have a job that I not only love, but I'm very passionate about, and it allows me to help others. And so in doing so, I just want to thank everyone that was able to come out here today and support me.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not going in there.
Any comments from our esteemed colleagues?
Oh, okay.
I see Mr. Maniscalco. You're recognized, sir.
Just want to say congratulations and thank you for your service to this community and to the sacrifice that your family makes, knowing that you're putting on that uniform every day and doing your job and protecting us and keeping us safe. We appreciate them. We appreciate you. the whole community does. And it's wonderful to be able to honor you here today. And again, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Vieira, I didn't see you at first.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, officer, for all of your service and for your words. And it's rewarding to hear the things that you do from what was said, and then reading on the summary of what you've done. And you're right to have pride in what you do, because what you do keeps us safe, and it betters the community. And I'm glad that your mother, I believe I heard, is there, your husband, one of your children, because they should all be very, very proud of the work that you do for all of us every day. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm going to do what I do best. Mr. Carlson, we'll go round table like I've been there. Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
We're laughing because everybody wants to say something all the time. But thank you so much. It was great meeting you downstairs. Beautiful family. Hopefully the other kid can see the video later. But thank you so much for your service, and I appreciate the fact that you can't talk about much of what you do, and that's a great tribute to you and your colleagues for all the hard work you do in our community to help keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
You recognized, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Officer, fairly often, Chief John Bennett, I don't know if you know Chief Bennett, he's now our Chief of Staff, used to be a Deputy Chief over there at TPD, but he'll tell me what a great crew TPD is and how hard everybody works, and like you've shown, not just going in and doing your shift, but going over and above, you know, and to fight crime, because that's why you're there. And I just want to say, on behalf of the City Council, we appreciate your efforts, and we appreciate you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Randall, you recognize sir. Warner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Officer Taylor, you are one of the few, but one of the many few, because all of you in the Tampa Police Department will try to do what you have done. And if you give up, they win and the citizens lose. But in your case, it's just like watching TV. Cold case where there's no leads, scratching and digging to find something, a cigarette butt that enables another cigarette butt that matches whatever's left on that butt to continue where it came from. When you don't give up, like you never gave up, you have some results. And what you've done exemplifies what the Tampa Police Department means, not only to our city, but as an example throughout the country. You have to continue working and doing and digging and scratching. And you found out the piece of evidence that linked this crime to others. You made your connection, you followed your leads, you followed all your training, and you like what you do. That's the most important thing in life. If you have a job and you're not lucky and happy, go find another job. Life is too short. So thank you for who you are. Thank your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your husband, all your relatives for encouraging you and do what you do best. And that's do the duties that you were sworn to. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. And Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Morning. We haven't given out the goodies, young lady, so I'll give the final comments after we give out the goodies.
You get the last word. Okay, Mr.
Thank you,
Citro.
Mr. Chair. Now comes one of the best times you are going to receive some accolades from our community partners. But first, PBA is here.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Council. Thanks again for giving us a platform to represent our officers. I'm Jimmy Owens with the Tampa Police Benevolent Association. I'm also a corporal with the Tampa Police Department. I once sat in the shoes of a detective, and you need a really good detective to solve these cases. Officer Taylor is there to learn something new, but she performed as a tenured detective. So on behalf of the Tampa PBA, I would like to present her with this plaque and an appreciation for her hard work and dedication representing the men and women of the Tampa Police Department. And I'd like to say one more thing. She's Officer Taylor, but I believe she's on the list, Chief. So, hopefully it's Detective Taylor soon. Thank you.
A little plug from Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy.
Good morning. My name is Christina Stephan from the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority. Congratulations. Thank you. You have a gift card and some goodies from Shop Gandy. Thank you so much for going above and beyond. and really having perseverance to help our community in great ways.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike MacArthur with Steps Towing Service, and on behalf of Todd Stepp and Steps Towing Service, we'd like to congratulate you for a job well done. You know, it takes a lot to do the job that all the officers do, and you rose above this month, and congratulations. We'd like to present you with a $50 Target gift card and a night out in our company limousine for you and your family and friends. Take some time off, enjoy it, you deserve it. Thank you.
You got a big smile on that one.
I'm not-
Thank you so much.
I'm not taking them from you, I'm just holding them for you.
Thank you.
Hello, Officer Taylor. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well. First of all, I don't know why anybody would commit a crime. I just, especially having someone like you, they're going to get caught. And obviously, a $9,000 ring. There's no ring in this, I promise. But there is a nice watch that we have had engraved for you. On the back, it says "Congratulations on Officer of the Month." And I'm with Casper's company, McDonald's, so we're huge supporters of law enforcement, City Council. So just want to say thank you so much. And there's a little nice card for you as well.
Okay, thank
you
you.
very much. Should I give this to Rice? Joseph? Thank you so much. Thank you, City Council.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Council. Pete Brevy on behalf of Busch Gardens. And as I always say, thank you for your continued support of law enforcement. I think it's more important during these times than ever before. And then Officer Taylor, obviously great work. We really appreciate it. On behalf of Neil Thurman and the Busch Gardens and Adventure Island employees, we'd like to give you complimentary tickets to our park to enjoy. You can ride in the Steps Towing limo after you go to McDonald's across the street. But appreciate your work and thank you for what you do to keep our community safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, Council, Officer, Chief. Tom Rowan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On behalf of the Glazier family, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we want to present you with this game ball for outstanding performance. Thank you very much for what you do for our community.
Sir, was that the one that Brady's threw the 600 touchdown?
I went to Mr. Brady's house this morning and tried to get it from him for this, but he wouldn't give it up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
That might be from the lightning.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Go Thunderbug.
Here we go. Should we get Bodie on this one?
Yeah, there you go.
Uh-oh.
Got it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Lou Bailey, and I'm here on behalf of Zoo Tampa. The volunteers who serve on the board are presenting you with a family membership to the zoo, which will be great for you and your kids, and we hope you all enjoy animals as much as we do. And I want to just say, you go, girl. I mean, I love the smarts and the diligence and everything. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Leanna Name with Tampa Theater. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On behalf of Tampa Theater, I'm honored to give you the gift of a membership, so hopefully you come and visit us on Franklin Street. Thank you so much for your service in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good morning, Officer Taylor.
Good morning.
I'm Grace Gonzalez. I'm here on behalf of the Columbia Restaurant Group and the Gonsmart family. Congratulations on a job well done this month. We would like to present you with a $100 gift card to the Columbia Restaurant. This can be used at any of our restaurants, and we hope you enjoy a nice night with your family or with any of your friends. Enjoying some classic paella or sangria. You enjoy a nice night out.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. Good morning.
You had enough yet?
I mean, no, yes, of course. It's really wonderful.
I think the chief said he wanted these, so I,
Oh, okay.
no. Steve Michelini, I'm here on behalf of a variety of different corporations that would like to honor you. One of them is the Tampa Metropolitan YMCA. They're going to provide you with an honorary sort of gift certificate so you can go enjoy their facilities. On behalf of Bella Brava Restaurant, and a new restaurant in Midtown, they're going to provide you with a gift certificate for $50. The Chicho's Restaurant Group is providing you with a gift certificate for $50. And China Yummy House, China Bistro, providing you with a gift certificate for $50. So enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
You can go to the play and then,
Yeah.
or go eat and then go to the play, or
Lots of
take the
options.
limousine, or, anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michelini. And Mr. Chairman Goods, I believe.
Again, thank you very much for being our Officer of the Month.
Thank you.
All right,
Chairman?
Chairman Goods,
Well, you know,
you got the last word.
I see you guys got some new watches. I remember I got a couple of those watches a long time ago. So, again, we thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And your family for being here. And so, again, me being the only person who knows how it is to be in that uniform, it is a job. And, you know, it takes a strong person to do this job. So, again, thank you, and God bless you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem, I believe Mr. Citro, a memo was sent, Officer of the Month will be given out in December correct, sir?
I
December,
could
so.
say yes.
So I think a memo was put out, so we may make a motion later on, but I think in December there'll be Officer of the Month for November and December.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. All right, we're gonna bring in the next crew.
Get somebody to help you with all that stuff. We're gonna take some pictures out.
All right. All right, next up, we've got item 2, presentation of commendation to our good friends at Tampa Parks and Rec for achieving a national gold medal. Chairman Goods will present that to Ms. Nguyen and Ms. Sharisha and her team.
Come on up, your team. This is my favorite part. You know, I was the policeman, but you know, Parks and Recreation is my heart. It all starts in the park, you know, they've been doing a fabulous job with some of the programs through the COVID process. So I'm very pleased with what the Parks and Recreation is doing, their leadership at the Parks and Rec. And I know they've got a special thing for me in December with our Christmas in East Tampa. So I'm very excited about the second portion of what we have made our commitment about East Tampa during Christmas time. But today we're here to give accolades to the Recreation Department for receiving a national award they've been fighting for a couple years, and finally we got it. My understanding.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
And I found out about, I was calling John Allen to ask about some information, and I just happened to see a Facebook post. We just won. And then I had to call Sharisha, and I'm in a meeting. Wait a minute, I'm trying to call you about this big win. But anyway, I was able to get the information right away. I said we had to recognize the staff for what they're doing over there. So this morning, Ms. Sharisha, since you're the director, I know you got your boss here, but since you're the director, we're going to give it to you. Presented to Sharisha Hills, Director and staff of Tampa Parks and Recreation Department. It is with pleasure that we present this commendation to Sharisha Hills, Director of the City of Tampa Parks and Recreation Department, and to her outstanding, hard-working, and dedicated employees, that is true. The City of Tampa has focused on improving the quality of life for its citizens and remaining one of the top working balanced communities. Other highlights that set us apart include 2 gymnastics and dance complexes and more than 3,000 participants, which one's coming to East Tampa soon, folks. Partnering with Tampa Bay Lightning to build 2 outdoor roller hockey rinks, the opening of the River Center at Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park, which hosted more than 250 functions and visitors, and award-winning 2.7-mile river walk that connects 7 parks and many cultural and tourist attractions. For these efforts, they were awarded the National Gold Medal Award for Excellence in Park and Recreation Management. This award is given to a National Recreation and Parks Association in partnership with the American Academy for Park and Rec Administration. Congratulations. The Tampa City Council proudly presents this accommodation on the 28th day of October 2021. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. Thank you very much. I stand here with the senior management staff and humbly accept this award on behalf of our entire department. All 500 staff, we keep saying it, this gold medal that's here, if we could break it up into 500 pieces, every piece is the hard work, the sweat, the tears that they've put in there. So we humbly accept this. We say this all the time. It's great. We don't rest on our laurels. We wish we can go again because we would like to go like other teams back to back to back. But we have to wait 5 years, give somebody else a chance, and then we'll come back and do it again. But just know that what we do, we appreciate all the other departments, the support for City Council, our administrator that's here, our mayor, and most importantly, the community for supporting us and helping us achieve this award.
All right. Congratulations.
You know, well, I'm going to say this one thing. Maybe I should, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm the chairman. I'm going to do it anyway. I understand one of your senior staff members is leaving us. And this gentleman here is a good friend of mine. He's worked very hard. Anytime I've called him, he stepped up to the challenge. And I am going to recognize him, but I think a lot of people should know that she has a great senior staff behind me. I know them very well. When I ask them to do something, they do it. But, John, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. You've done a great job here, and I'm going to recognize you in a couple of weeks.
Why don't you come up to the podium there? Who do we got?
John Allen. He's the senior manager for, I think, programs, correct?
Yeah, Recreation Division.
Recreation Division of Programs, and he's leaving us. We hate to leave him, but when you get an opportunity, you got to take that opportunity. And we're going to miss you, but you take that opportunity and run it because you're going to do a great job where you're going at.
I appreciate it.
And we're going to make sure we give you a little going away present too. All right?
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Dingfellow, back to you. Any council members want to make anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Ms. Hills and your team. Fantastic job, an amazingly huge and amazing award there. We want you to put it up here and make us look good too. So anyway, congratulations. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, folks.
Guess not. Trying to keep it moving along. If anybody wants to say anything, wave your hand.
If you have to wait for me, so I can go upstairs and I'll get Mr. Wolf.
I'm not disagreeing.
Mr. Chairman, you got a fine-looking man there looking to be recognized.
Say it again.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this gentleman needs no introduction, of course. Our solid waste director, Mr. Mark Woolfolk, again, he's leaving us as well. I understand he's got a better, I won't say a better opportunity, but an opportunity, because we're better here, but he's going someplace else to do a blessing someplace else. But I understand, and I met his possible predecessor, a young guy, and I talked with him, had a conversation. He seemed like he's going to be up and coming. But today's Mark's Day, and we definitely want to recognize you for the work you've done here. When I've called upon you, you've acted, accordingly and for this council. So today, it is with pleasure that we represent this accommodation to Mark Woolfolk in recognition of your 23-plus years of dedicated service to the city of Tampa and its citizens. It's a long time. As the director of the Department of Solid Waste and Environmental Program Management and its 260-person team, you provided environmental safety, time-responsive, and cost-effective collections, disposal, and recycling service for nearly 90,000 residential and commercial customers in the city of Tampa, and directed an operating enterprise fund budget of over $130 million annually. It's very impressive. Amongst initiatives was a citywide curbside recycling program, introduction of alternative fuel vehicles from Crest Natural Gas, as well as overseeing the construction of a compressed natural gas fueling station. He led the effort for the planning, design, and construction of the new McKay Bay transfer station. Mark oversaw the development of the McKay Bay Waste to Energy Facility Master Plan, which led to the groundwork for the transition of the facility from private to public operations. He played a key role in the transition team to transfer operations of the McKay Bay Waste Energy Facility to the City of Tampa on June 1st, 2020. We thank you for that. This is the second such transition in the country. Finally, he directed the disbursement management operations after Hurricane Irma that included the collection, mulching, and refuge of over 170,000 cubic yards of yard and right-of-way debris. Your longevity with the city is a testament to the fact that you take pride in your profession and that you're committed to providing safe and efficient collection services. We extend our best wishes to you on your retirement and success in your future endeavors. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
See you have your family with you here and some of your team leaders here. Words?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Council members, thank you for having me, come down and presenting me with the accommodation. And thank you for all of the support that you provided throughout the years. But before I go any further, I need to thank two most wonderful women in my life. My wife, you see on my right, my mother also, Lena Wilfalk. So, yeah. And may he rest in peace, but I always give a shout out to Wayne Brookins, who took a chance on hiring me as a supervisor with the department 23 plus years ago. And my goal wasn't to stay as long as I have, but God has other plans. So always try to be humble and follow him. But again, I'd like to thank everyone for their support. But most of all, I got to thank the men and women of the Solid Waste Department and the representation that you see behind me for a profession that is often undervalued, underappreciated, and marginalized at times. So I want to make sure that we always give them the flowers, and I encourage everyone to continue to do the same and uplift the Solid Waste Management Department and realize how blessed the city of Tampa is to have an enterprise fund that operates the way it does. So again, thank you to everyone. I'd like to also got to give a shout out there to Mayor Buckhorn, took a chance on me and promoted me to director. So shouts out to him. And again, thanks to everyone, and thanks for having me down.
Mr. Citro. Mr. Wolf, I'm going to say, give you the highest praise on what you have done, especially with the superstars that you have in your department. Every team can have superstars, but unless you have the coach to direct the superstars. I have never seen a department work as efficiently as our solid waste. Just look at Gasparilla parades. You can have the streets clean in 4 hours and have traffic up and running again. That in itself is a major accomplishment. Thank you for everything you've done for our citizens. Thank you for what you have done with the city of Tampa. And congratulations and best in any of your endeavors.
Thank you.
Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate working with you for just about your whole career. And what you've done is nothing short of a miracle. However, a good leader has great followers. No leader can do if he or she doesn't have the followers. And why do you have the people that believe in you? Because you gave them the trust, the opportunity to serve, and they've done a marvelous job. And you've done a fantastic job. The only thing that I'm going to ask of you is remember what I'm going to say. When you get to Houston, you better have a real small car. Because those highways make ours look like alleys. And the traffic there is like if you were in an aircraft carrier and one after another is taking off, the jets. So I know you realize where you're going, and they've got a great individual with a great reputation and forward-looking and honestly. And I can also say that anytime my aide called your department, you or whoever, the action was taken. And I really appreciate all the years of service you've done. You've earned all your respect here, and now you're going to find the same thing in Houston. And go raise who for the Astros. I didn't say boo, I said who. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. Mark, I think you know how I feel. You're the go-to guy. You're a can-do guy, and whenever I had any questions about anything related to your group, you were on the phone day or night responding, and that's all council can ask for. We so appreciate you and your service, and we wish you all the best of luck and Godspeed. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dingford,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dingford, Mark served on the Black History Committee, and they're here, and they want to give their goodbyes to him. So I'm going to let, I think, the president of the committee come up, Mrs. Cynthia.
I saw some big smiles from
Yes,
Debbie and some of the others.
They're here. They're here, so.
Good morning, Council. My name is Celeste Gibbons Peoples. I am the current president of the City of Tampa's Black History Committee, and we are definitely losing a good one by losing Mark. He has been a dedicated member. He's been executive board. Anything we've ever asked him to do, he has always said no problem. He's always been there for us, and he's always been a supporter of mine as well as the City of Tampa Black History Committee. So we know you're leaving us, but you're not going where we can't get in contact with you.
That's right.
So City Tampa's loss is Houston's gain. So just want to give you a little token of our appreciation to show you that you will be missed and that you will always be close to our hearts. In recognition of your continuous dedication and support to the City of Tampa's Black History Committee Incorporated, October 28th, 2021. Just like to present you with this little token of appreciation and say thank you.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I know Sal is there, his current supervisor, but I wanted to also recognize Brad Baird because I think they worked together for many years, and I know they're very tight. So.
All right, I'm heading back up.
All right. Congratulations, Mike. We'll wait for Mr. Chairman to get back up here and continue on with the agenda in case he has anything special for us. Lewis?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I thought it said they were striking.
Nope, we didn't strike it. He has a fill-in.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Vieira. That's right, he has a fill-in. That was sent to me, yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's a real pleasure to be here. Adriana Pabon, unfortunately, due to a medical appointment, could not make it here today. So I invited my dear friend and my colleague, who I know some of y'all know, the wonderful Teresa Jean Pierre Coy, who is a proud FAMU and Stetson College of Law graduate, who's going to talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month and what it means to her, such a unique issue. Teresa began her legal career as an assistant public defender in Pinellas County. In 2010, she opened up her own law firm, where she continues to handle criminal defense cases as well as personal injury and tort cases. She is past president of the George Edgecombe Bar Association. In 2020, she was awarded the G. Kirk Haas Humanitarian Award from the Florida Bar and the Marcelino Bubba Huerta Award from the Criminal Law Section of the Hillsborough County Bar Association. Presently, she is an adjunct professor at Stetson College of Law, where she teaches in trial advocacy. She is fluent in Haitian Creole and prides herself on being able to help the surrounding Haitian American community and Haitian community with their legal needs in a language that they are comfortable with. We are honored to have my friend and my colleague Teresa here today. She's also proud to be married to Travis, who works for our state attorney, and together they have a stepson TJ and a son Thaddeus. So it's my great pleasure to invite my friend Teresa. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Louis for inviting me out today for such an important topic. As he mentioned, my name is Teresa Jean-Pierre Coy, and we are celebrating, well, not celebrating, but bringing awareness to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. On October 31st of 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer. Since that time, it's progressed to stage 4, but I am under the care of Moffitt Cancer Center, where they are doing an absolutely wonderful job. Breast cancer, 1 in 8 women, the statistics show that 1 in 8 women over the course of their lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And in that 1 in 8 women, African American women are more likely to die from breast cancer. So with those statistics, it's truly important that we have a month to bring awareness to it, but in my opinion, it should be every day. I think women should be checking for, issues with their breasts every day, and anytime anything shows up, that they should go immediately to their doctor. It used to be thought that you had to be older to go and get checked for breast cancer, but nowadays it's hitting young people too. I know people who've been diagnosed with breast cancer in their 20s. I was diagnosed at the age of 37, so it is definitely something for everybody to obviously be aware of, and also men as well. If you have wives and significant others, you should be able to help detect those things if some things are wrong or feel different as well. So it truly is my pleasure to be here to talk about Breast Cancer History Month. I may not have a full crew of people behind me, but I stand in the gap for the hundreds of thousands of breast cancer survivors and those that have passed on. So once again, thank you to Councilmember Luis Vieira for inviting me today. And, just make sure you get checked and be vigilant because it is truly something important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Dingfellow, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming forward. I don't know if we've ever met, but we have a lot in common, being a former public defender. I did 3 stints over there with Miss Julie Holt, who does a great job. And but anyway, I know where your heart is and where it lies. We also so appreciate you coming forward. Very brave of you to tell your own story, but also to make sure that that everybody pays serious attention to this very important issue. My mother had breast cancer about 10 years ago, and thank goodness she's still with us today. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miranda, you recognize, sir.
I want to thank you very much for appearing and pray for you that you be all right in the future. Breast cancer is something that not only affects women, like you said, that's the majority, but even men have it at a very small amount. And it's incumbent upon everyone to continue giving and helping. I know that you're at one of the best hospitals in the country, maybe in the world, at Moffitt. And I can tell you that breast cancer, I don't think there's anyone in the city of Tampa that family, somewhere in that family line, hasn't been touched by somebody having breast cancer. And I appreciate your forwardness, your ability to speak, and the awareness is what makes it where it's going to be cured not too far into the future. If they can cure it, at least stop the vaccine, get the vaccine for COVID. I know that's different. It's not a vaccine you can get because it's your own body that creates the cells that go nuts and they multiply. And I want to thank you again for all you're doing to make awareness of breast cancer. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Well, we thank you for coming and sharing your story, and we thank our good friend Luis Vieira for inviting you here, my good friend. And I heard FAMU at the beginning, so you're an HBCU grad, like my Wildcat like I am, so I'm glad that you were here to give us the news and to make sure that people be aware of this month. And like you said, it's every day, every month. So God bless you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Vieira, that's it, sir. Anything else, sir? All right. We'll move along to item number 5.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, did you take public comment already?
No,
this
we did
morning?
not. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shelby. I was getting help myself. Thank you, sir. That's what I got you here for. Public comment.
Now, did you want to take downstairs or recorded first, sir?
Downstairs.
Downstairs? It's not recorded, actually. I meant remotely. Forgive me.
Man, I'm clear you gotta slip that in, public comment, before we get there other sometimes, huh? You gotta put that on there next time, huh? We have anybody on the second floor to speak for public comment this morning? I thought I saw Mr. Daniels down there earlier this morning. All right. All right. Morning, sir.
Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. So we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom everywhere we go. And for the last 621 years, throughout this entire world, and especially in the continent of Africa, people have been tricking us not only out of our freedom, but out of our resources. And that has manifested itself globally in a certain way, that where you have what's called Eurocentric, Anglo-white manifest destiny, where white people feel that they have the right, the opportunity, the ability, and just the privileges to be in control of everybody else's resources, everybody else's land, everybody else's power. White people don't believe you're supposed to have power. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning, power. In these little 2 minutes left, we're going to talk about power. We as African people have no black power. And what they do is they use puppets all over the world to make us feel that we have the representation of some type of a semblance of power. But we don't have any power at all. Right here in this city, we have no power. We're 26% of the population, but nobody say what we get as far as 26% of the power. We have no power, and that have to stop. And we can't just look at situations and say, hey, like, you know, black community leaders, black person over here, black activist. No, it is the white people that's responsible for keeping the power from us. So right here in the city council, it is the white people. It is the white people that know that Orlando Goulds isn't equipped, was never equipped, and no African person will never be equipped to handle power, to say what's ours and that we should rightfully get it. It's no person equipped to say what goes on over at the Hillsborough County Clerk of the Circuit Court in the incarceration of African people. We have no power in our hands. That's why African people can be locked up right to this day. They have relaxed marijuana laws, and African people can be locked up to this day with life sentences for small amounts of marijuana. Okay? That's because of no power. So we as African people have to get some black power in our hands to start making changes. We cannot rely on this pseudo power, on this fake power, and black people running around saying, hey, we did something for our community. We got a community center. We got a pothole fixing the road. No, those days are done and over with. Black people, we have to step our game up. And the fact of the matter is, black people, you have to stop voting. We have to hold a vote on them. We just have to go in places and hold them accountable for treating us as human beings. We have to hold a vote. When you vote, you're participating in your own oppression. That's nothing original. We know when you vote, you're participating in your own oppression. So don't let them carry you like a clown going down year after year voting, and after voting, you got to start begging. We black people need black power.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this point of personal privilege.
Okay, Mr. Dingfellow, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with all due respect to the gentleman, and he has his First Amendment rights to speak his mind, and we're all proud of that. But on behalf of, I believe, all city council, I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think our chairman does a great job in everything he does. He did a great job as a police officer for many, many years. I had the privilege of working with him. He does a great job as a city councilman, representing the entire city, including his district, and mainly East Tampa, and his community and the African American community. And I'm proud to serve with you, Mr. Chairman, and that's my First Amendment right to respectfully disagree with the gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment on the second floor?
Good morning, council persons. My name is Adam Reith. I'm here to discuss item 10 on your agenda today, particularly the neighborhood commercial district planning program. I know it's kind of out of context because I'm speaking first and you're going to hear about it later. But I was asked by some of my colleagues at Walk Bike Tampa to come talk to you guys, particularly about the Beta Bay Improvement Project. The walkability on Beta Bay is pretty bad. If you ride your bike down that sidewalk, you're dodging wires, trash cans, what have you. So we're all excited that the city's decided to look at that issue to make improvements, etc. However, the current plan that we've seen in the roundtables that we've had an opportunity to participate in isn't totally inclusive of what needs to be improved. Currently, as you'll see, it's like an L shape. You have Beta Bay Boulevard, and then they're going to improve the segment of McDill going north from Beta Bay. So it's like an L. We believe it should be more like a T. So it should encompass all of Beta Bay, then the area north of Beta Bay on McDill, as well as south. Because if you go south on McDill from Beta Bay, you'll notice there's a large commercial district on the west side of the road of McDill. Includes Pane Rustica, Osteria Natalina, about 30 different businesses. And I approached all these folks and I told them, hey, did you know they're improving the roads up there? They said, no, we had no idea. Can they help us out? Because these businesses, these small businesses survived COVID, et cetera. But the infrastructure around their businesses is terrible. In particular, when you look at the concentration of residential properties, there's 3 condos south of Beta Bay, east of McDill, that puts a large concentration of people there. They all walk to these restaurants, they walk to these shops. There's a gym there. People walk there at 5 a.m. I hear them grunting in the morning. But they have to dodge all these cars going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour down McDill. My concern is if we don't get a crosswalk there, if we don't improve the sidewalks there, we're going to have another fatality like we did on Bayshore. So when you see that today, at item number 10, and they talk about Beta Bay, ask them, why isn't it a T? Why aren't you just making it go 2 blocks south? These simple improvements could save lives, and I know you all are interested in saving lives. So I appreciate your consideration of increasing the scope of the improvement of McDill south of Beta Bay, just a couple blocks to Grovewood, and I think your citizens and voters would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Adam.
Mr. Carlson?
Adam, Mr. Carlson wants to say something.
Sorry, I'll talk about this later, but this was an initiative started by City Council a couple years ago, and the idea of neighborhood commercial districts in particular is to look at the neighborhoods and then the commercial part and see how they integrate. And this is the first one the city's worked on, and it's hard getting the wheels grinding on it. I'm disappointed because the study area, a lot of people were confused and thought it was a study of Beta Bay instead of a study of the neighborhood and the commercial district. And so this is the first one that's working on. The original proposed study area was much bigger than what it's ended up being. So I'm hopeful that we can expand it and continue to look at it, and then as we do more of these, that we'll look beyond that. It can't be a road analysis. It's got to be an analysis of how the people interact with the environment and how people walk to services and how they engage with services. And if we don't accomplish it all in this study, I'll propose another one. Hopefully my colleagues will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Any more speakers on the second floor?
Good morning. My name is Nathan Hagan. This council and our city staff are working hard every day to make our city more affordable to live in. What we're doing now is not enough. For a world-class city like what Tampa is becoming, there is never enough that we can do to address this. The more we grow, the more our quality of life improves, the more we must do. So we must still do more. This council should stop at almost nothing to ensure we address what is a coming crisis here in Tampa, to stop displacement and to temper the economic harm that is being done on rent-burdened neighbors across our city today. The urgency of your work on this issue will only increase. We need big, bold changes to address this issue, including ever greater investment in affordable housing and housing stability measures, comprehensive land use reform, speeding up construction services, necessary infrastructure improvements for higher density housing, and ensuring people can get to where they need to go safely and equitably. Too many regular people simply can't afford to live in our city anymore. This body has the ultimate responsibility of addressing this. We have many helpful ideas in the pipeline already, but we need urgency and scale to meet our needs. Our city must embrace big change or miss out on this incredible opportunity we face today. We must be thinking even bigger. That's my speech today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. And I'm going to address that issue at the end of our meeting with a couple of motions in reference to what he's talking about. How many more speakers do we have?
Got one more.
Hello. I am Sovereign, Despot, Holder in the Course, King Johnny Bernard Booth. First, to the projector. Alright. I'm going to repeat this way. Sovereign, worldwide, global, American kingdom. Executive, authorized, permission to operate. Honorable living entity, live agent, Sovereign Johnny Boo. JB, secured creditor, R positive, sovereign guarantee, banker's guarantee. Sole executive, exclusive, creator for lawful laws, issuer, giver, creator of lawful currency. All absolute sovereign immunities, rights, writs rights, forever reserved. I want to show you something today. Back to the projector. Now you see the tone. Can you see that?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay. That right there, brown skin, red skin. Okay. Let me show you something else. All right, here we have Hillary, Bill Clinton. These right here are the ones that sold out all of the United States and tried to sell us all in slavery. You see Chelsea's depressed and she's got a fake laugh and Bill is just picking them up as usual. So the fella that came forward, the one that keeps talking about Africa, continent this, Africa is a slave name. To keep calling yourself black is a slave name. You know, when they were captured by the Anglo-Saxon European Union, not the white people, because there's Anglo-Brown, Anglo-Africa, Anglo-French, Anglo all of this. So white and black is not a skin tone. It is a conception of business reality to where there is job just on business. So to be known as a U.S. citizen is to be known as a foreign entity. Okay, so Blue Campaign, Blue Star went out because of the modern day slavery, to where slavery in all its forms had already been declared and demanded to be abolished by Elizabeth, commercial
Thank
queen
you, sir.
Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else to speak on the second floor?
No more speakers for public speaking.
All right. How many registered we have? All right, let's have at it.
Good morning, Chair. This is Suleen Lucas, Deputy City Clerk. I would like to inform you that we had 3 registered speakers. However, one, Egypt Brown, did not log on, and the other 2, Stephanie Horner and Carol Ann Bennett, emailed me this morning that they will not be speaking and they will give Tampa City Council a break today. Thank you.
All right, then. All right, ladies. All right, we'll go to item number 5. think we have rental certificate program. I think we have memos.
Did Miss Wynn stick around?
Yeah, I'm sure
on
she
that?
is. I'm sure she is. Hope she'll pop up in a second. We have anybody from the administration, besides Ms. Wynn, to speak on this item, item number 5?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Kamaria Pettis-Knuckle from the City Attorney's Office. Ms. Wynn did prepare a memorandum dated October 11, 2021. Did City Council receive a copy of the memo?
Yeah. Yes, we did.
See a packet, but I think council members have questions in regards to the program. I know I've had a couple, because I've had some folks call me and say that they think the program isn't working. So I was going to ask a few questions. Are you available?
Yes,
to
and
ask some questions?
I don't know why. I'm sure she's probably trying to log on.
Well, we can come back to her.
answer
It's not a problem. I'm sure
Okay.
someone's listening. They'll get her back on the line. So we'll go ahead and go to item number 6, and we'll come back to her if we can get a hold to her. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. There's a memorandum from Susan Johnson Velez requesting a continuance on item 6 to the January 27th, 2022 workshop.
So moved.
Mr. Jeanfeld has moved, and Mrs. Maniscalco second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted.
And again, for the public, that is regarding the Community Benefit Agreement Program as is recently enacted in St. Petersburg. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shelby, because I know myself and a few other councilors are really interested in that and how we can move that forward. I know we have it in the CRAs now, but I know as a city, we want to incorporate in everything we do to do business with people. All right, item number 7. I think we have the interim director, Mr. Washington, and legal on this matter. Mr. Bennett, Mr. Rod.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Council. Good morning, public. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I talked to Deputy Administrator Ruggiero last night on this item, and they assured me they would be available for the workshop. And I have reached out to Ms. Wynn's office.
I just saw Mr. Washington pop up on the screen. He's downstairs, sir. He's here.
All right, thank you. I'm out.
Thank you for letting us know that. All right, Mr. Washington, good afternoon, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Introduce yourself to the council and so they can know what you do, how you do it, and we can get right down to business.
All right. Well, good morning, sir. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Council. I'm Larry Washington, and I'm the Chief of Operations, and I'm currently filling in as the Interim Director for the Solid Waste Department for the City of Tampa.
Good job.
And I'll go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. When are we ready to start?
Okay. I'm here to speak about the questions that arose on council session that took place on August 26th, which was the recommendations on how to address businesses and apartment complexes that have trash receptacles too small to hold the amount of waste that they produce. And in addition, the issue of trucks being able to access some streets and alleyways that are not big enough to drive down through, which I think you mentioned the Hyde Park area when that did arise. So I'll address the first issue, which was the recommendations on how to address businesses and apartment complexes. So we already have processes in place to address this situation. Currently, once our drivers, they notice the, let's say, influx of trash outside a receptacle, and I believe we're speaking specifically towards commercial businesses. Once they identify that, they take a picture, they notify our dispatch, they notify our supervisors, and our BAM team as well, and then we notify the customer. Upon your third receipt of a notification of extra trash being outside your receptacle, then we contact code and potentially we may increase your service, which could be the amount of service that you have per week or the size of your actual bin, depending on what it is. And in conjunction with that, we always do a thorough inspection of our commercial accounts And we are pairing up with neighborhood enhancement for those areas that have trash, let's say, scattered across the, let's say, a complex itself, to work with them and then work with code so they can enact whatever procedures they need to enact.
All right, I'll give deference first to Mr. Miranda. I have a couple questions, but I'll give.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, I appreciate everything you're saying, and I appreciate the efforts of your whole organization in doing what they're doing. And what we're specifically looking at, I believe, is the issue of sometimes there's a commercial operation, or small one, of course, that has 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 10 garbage pickup venues, instead of having a 1 or 2 big bins, which would be, I guess, faster and easier to pick up. I'm not certain about that because I'm not in that business. You are.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is most important. I've spoke to a couple of the drivers. I'm sure other members of council are aware of this, that there's some streets in South Tampa that are too narrow for a big truck to go in through without possibly damaging the truck or a car. And there's, what we're looking for is if you have any specific items that you're changing on your venues or your routes or notification to the neighborhood, that please don't park there from 6 in the morning to, let's say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock when the garbage usually is picked up. And those are the things that we're looking at. I understand you're looking at the big picture, but sometimes these small little things will erase the big picture because it settles the differences between the fact and lack of factors that we have to. I don't want to see any truck driver or anyone working in the division get criticized or maybe given a little citation for not doing their job because they can't do their job. Either the trucks are too big. I think we only have 1 small truck, and I understand may have to make 2 trips instead of 1 to relieve of the trash that they picked up. But it's incumbent to the employees and the vehicle and the maintenance of that vehicle to have smaller equipment to do the same job because sometimes it can't be done. In other words, growth have taken over the size of the truck. And more automobiles, they may say we're changing in lifestyle, we're changing from engine to electric, but the same automobiles are going to be in the same parking up on the street, sir. So I appreciate everything you say and I agree with you. But I think we like to, I'm sure this chairman is going to speak to this more than I am. But I'd just like to see the answers that what are we doing in the future to solve these problems?
Understood, sir. And I was going to lead into my second point, which is we're working with other departments. So this is an interdepartmental pilot project that we have going on within the city of Tampa, which we're collaborating with Mr. Vic, Vic, and I always butcher his last name. He's going to tell you about
we all do that. We say
yes,
Vic.
okay, all right.
We all say Vic.
Now I know you're human.
Yes, so I'm working with Vic in the mobility department to do an assessment of these tight areas so we can properly notify the public that parking on the streets is a safety hazard for us, and not only us, emergency vehicles as well. So currently, we have done a in-depth review of certain areas in the Hyde Park. I'm sure you are aware. And we are entertaining potentially putting up street signs once we actually reach out to the public, which we have a educational front as well. And actually, this is a great point or a great part in the meeting to cue off to the CTT TV crew. And we sent a brief video, educational video, so we can make sure that the public understands why we are potentially may entertain street signs and no parking signs in the area. So if you will, CTT or CTT.
Let's do Mr. Washington.
Yes, sir.
Let me get to some of that. You talking about the video. Let me get to some of the councilman's questions, and then we can take a look at your video.
Oh, great.
If you don't mind, Mr. Citru, you recognize?
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington, thank you for being here today. Mr. Washington and I have had some comments about some things that may be coming up in the future, and I thank you on that help. To dovetail on to Councilman Miranda's, I have heard concerns from some truck drivers that people park in front of these bins.
Yes.
Which interrupts their traffic, I mean, their service. And sometimes these bins cannot be picked up because people are parking in front of them, which just accumulates more waste. Is there anything that can be done with maybe TPD or code enforcement to recognize these people who are violating the signs, that are parking in front, and that are stopping these drivers from being able to pick up their trash in their usual route. Is there anything that can be done about those?
Yes, sir. Especially in the areas where they already have no parking signs. So we are working with code enforcement to push the public into a direction where they don't place their carts right next to a vehicle, which on our website, it does say we need all carts to have a 3 feet radius around them to ensure that we can actually provide service.
Are there citations given out for those people that do park in front of the trash containers, excuse me, even though there are warning signs?
Well, initially we'll end up tagging the cart, but we are working with them now. I can't speak for code at this very moment, but that is in the works.
Okay, Mr. Washington, I thank you. Just reminding people, do not park in front of these trash receptors, because if you do, the truck drivers cannot pick up that trash, and just more trash accumulates. Thank you, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Citro. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, please, I know you say you're reaching out to the community, and please do more of it than you think you need to do. I've been meeting with a lot of neighborhood associations, and there's a lack of information getting through. And I know Adam Smith is working on a whole new process to make sure we communicate more effectively with constituents, but they're saying they're being blindsided, they don't have information, not just in your area, but in other areas. And so we need to over-communicate. One thing in particular, please let all of us know, in particular in our district areas. Hyde Park has a sensitivity because they have an exception in some service in the alleys. So I would want to talk to you all about that offline, but please make sure you meet with the neighborhood leaders and also the associations to let them know everything that's going on. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole bunch of calls and emails. And the last thing I'll say while I have the floor is every day when I put my garbage and recycling out and then I pull it back at the end of the day, I think how much of a miracle it is that we have this service. And as much as people complain sometimes, the fact that we live in a city and a country where our garbage is picked up every day so well is really a miracle, and it's such a luxury that we have. And so I thank you all for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Mr. Chairman, looks like you have a little presentation for us at the podium there.
Yes, sir. If you could, Mr. Shelby, I haven't used his Elmo. Is it already on?
Looks like it just went
Gentlemen,
up.
can you see the photograph
Yes, sir.
on your monitors?
Yep, we're up.
And I talked to Mr. Washington extensively about this yesterday. Now tell me, how can drivers pick up the garbage? This is constant. I look all day on Facebook. I get these tags. Look, Mr. Chairman, what are y'all going to do about it? You know, other cities have plans in place to where they do opposite sides of the street certain days when the snow. We're big. I keep saying we're a bigger city now. We're no longer a small little city. And we have to start preparing ourselves to be that big city. And then what I get from drivers, Councilman, we get dinged. I'm down the I'm down an alley. The trucks are big trucks. They can't get down the alley, Mr. Miranda. And these guys get a scratch on the truck and they get written up. And we hear those things, which is, people say it's a non-preventable crash. No, it was a preventable crash. I mean, I look at the whole totality of what we have and the equipment we have. And I like alleys, but all of our alleys are not clean. Even in some of our good neighborhoods, they have trees all over those alleys. I know some people in some neighborhoods don't want the trash out front or whatever, but I'm just saying, it may come to a point to where we can't clean our alleys. Trash may have to be on the front to where it can be picked up so these guys can do their job and do it effectively and not be dinged for being what they call a preventable, non-preventable crash. So I just have to show this to the solid waste folks, and I want them to tell me about what they're doing about that and about the discipline with some of these gentlemen who called us, in reference to that. And again, when I talk about the debris, Mr. Vieira, some of these apartment complexes, and you talk about commercial. I'm looking to see what is the plan, because it's happening now, And how are we going to correct it now when you have these businesses that are getting these small dumpsters, knowing that they have multitude of trash, and the trash gets all into the communities all over. And these apartment complexes that have these small dumpsters, knowing that they need more than one dumpster, or bigger dumpsters to collect the trash. And then we have a Timber Falls and some of the other communities with trash all over the place. I mean, I know I heard Mr. Washington said drivers are supposed to, so I don't know what form that is, how they do that, or we're just starting to do that now, but that needs to start immediately so we can be able to say, you need to pay for the services and get the right service for the community. And again, thirdly, I know Mr. Cito, you've been in the Florida Legal Cities with me, and I know our past director, he wasn't really keen on the new trash receptor. So Mr. Washington, my third point, if he can talk about, I was invited to Clearwater, and Clearwater has put in some new type of trash systems over there. Those kind of cost effective, but I think with new development, these complexes and big high rises coming up, I think maybe we need to look at making them pay for that, to put that in the ground the way it's done, and hopefully they'll come back and give a presentation of that that type of trash receptor, because it's a cleaner, more environment friendly. It ain't exposed to the outside, it's down on the ground, the guy comes and pick it up. So just those 3 points, Mr. Washington, if you can speak on that in reference to the trash, the new type of style system of trash removal, also in reference to what are we doing about the dumpsters, the adequate dumpsters, and the discipline for the drivers. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You want to jump in?
All right, sir.
Hold on one second, Mr. Washington.
Mr. Chair, if I may, thank you very much. Councilman Goose, thank you very much for bringing up this point, especially on parking on our streets. A conversation I had years ago with Ms. Lynn Hertog in Seminole Heights. There has to come a time when we as a city have to change our parking outlooks, not only for solid waste, but for fire, but for police. And we're going to have parking on one side of the street or the other, just so that these type of vehicles can get through. Mr. Washington and I were talking exactly what you were talking about the vaulted trash receptacles, and I'm hoping that we can take a long look at that, not only for our trash receptors in businesses, apartments, condominiums, those type of things, but also for recyclables within our parks. These are vaulted. They keep the trash underground so that the wind doesn't blow it all over the place, or open containers where trash gets thrown everywhere. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in full agreement with you on that, Mr. Washington. I hope we can talk about those vaulted trash receptors in the near future.
Mr. Washington, you've got the floor.
You got the floor now. It's all yours. We give you a lot, so we're going to sit back now. Got your hot seat today.
Yes, sir. So in regards to the underground refuse system, the system that you mentioned that Clearwater is currently utilizing, I was actually at that unveiling, and we welcome the innovative service. However, we are currently looking into it. It's going to take some time to really assess and see if it's going to work for Tampa, but we are looking into any innovation that could make our streets cleaner and our jobs more efficient when it comes down to providing that adequate refuse service. I'll move on to the on-street parking. So the video that we're going to show at a later time is going to touch on that, the on-street parking. So we do have alley vehicles. They are made specifically for our tighter areas. So we have, I know Mr. Miranda, you mentioned, Councilmember Miranda, you mentioned we have one truck. We actually have 3, and we're in the process of purchasing 2 more that are a little smaller than the previous. And when I say little, it's inches, but inches go a mile when you are operating these vehicles in these tight situations. But we are addressing that, and I believe that there will take some collaboration between us and the public to ensure that we can provide that service, which may have to result in the movement of the cars from the streets, the relocation of the on-street parking. But we will make sure that we over-communicate. And again, over-communicate. We are actually in the process of pushing this communication to one of our newest employees, which we're hiring a communications coordinator for this purpose. But our recycling coordinators, they do a great job of getting the information out to the public.
en masse, and we utilize every venue possible, from social media to news releases to the neighborhood apps that we can utilize. And in addition, we plan on going to these neighborhood watch meetings and having these discussions with them to make sure that they understand why, give them the why behind what we're doing and the need and the better service that we can provide to them. And moving forward, I'll touch on the complexes with the overloaded bins. With our processes in place, we are able to increase their service, and we are able to give them a larger cart as well, and it's on the director's discretion. So once we work with code, once we work with neighborhood enhancement, and then these citations do start to come about, we will entertain potentially upping their service, because they obviously cannot we can't provide the adequate service to them because they aren't utilizing the correct bins or they don't have the correct service. So that is all in work.
Okay. What about the crashes?
The crashes?
Yeah.
Oh, in regards to discipline?
Yeah, drivers, yeah, with these
Yes.
alleys and some of these scratches on the truck and things like that, that, to me, I think, you know, we have to look at those things.
Yes, sir. So I can assure you that discipline in those tight areas like the alley does not take place. I do want to remind everyone that this one does come from the Human Resources team. However, I believe Mr. Wilfalk touched on this at the last meeting, and I believe he assured everyone that does not take place. And if you do have some names, maybe you can provide them to me, or you can provide them to HR so they can follow back with you all, and we can see if there is any kind of inconsistencies or anything that's opposite of what I'm telling you now.
All right, I guess we'll look at your video now, Mr. Washington.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hello, Tampa. Our team of drivers face obstacles every day while providing service to your cars. Some of these obstacles can be avoided with your help. Find a list of rules on our website and continue watching to learn more. Our drivers have around a decade each of experience, but magic isn't one of them. As you can see, our drivers have to squeeze through some very tight spaces to provide service, and since we can't shrink like Ant-Man, we're not able to get through to provide adequate service.
Hey DJ, what do you think? Jason, it could be better, but since it's not, I'll be back on the next service day.
Have your drivers in mind when placing cars curbside. Make sure there's not any obstacles to prevent safe collection. On your day of service, avoid street parking to alleviate service challenges. Make sure carts have a 3-foot clearance on all sides and are not placed under overhead obstacles such as tree limbs and low-hanging power lines. Recycling doesn't have to be collected right away like garbage. So if you can, let your cart fill up before placing out for service. And remember to recycle the right items. Alleys pose other threats that can place our drivers in challenging situations, but with your help, it can be a whole lot better.
Steve, do you think you can get your truck through here?
Houston, I think we got a problem.
Houston, we're in Tampa, and my name is Jason, by the way. We're here to provide safe and efficient service, and with your help, we can be even safer. Follow the information on the website, and thank you for your cooperation.
Mr. Dingle, I see you itching to say something.
Oh, I just thought it was a very cute video, informative. And how do we get that out? Is that going out on the web as well as on CCTV, Mr. Washington?
Yes, sir. So it goes on our City of Tampa sites, so Instagram, Facebook, and actually our website as well.
All right. Very cute. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
By
Mr.
design.
Washington? Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
Yeah,
We'll
could
go
you
to
just,
Pierre.
on that and any other tools like that you have, would you mind just emailing them to us too, please, and we'll put them on our social channels?
Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing up Timber Falls. You know, we've all done a lot of work, yourself included, Mr. Chairman, myself, Representatives Driscoll, Hart, Commissioner Myers, Senator Roussan, and others on that area. I'm not making a motion with regards to Timber Falls just because we're working with y'all on it, and y'all are doing a great job. And what the chairman was talking about there was just the excessive and just insulting overflow of trash that exists in that community, which is one of many indignities that the families there have to live with. But I wanted to thank everybody, including the chairman, for their hard work in that regard, and y'all and all the City of Tampa staff, as we've had a couple community meetings. We just had one a couple days ago where fire marshal and code enforcement were there, and a lot of things happened. So thank you for that. Thank you, sir.
No problem, sir. Anything else, gentlemen? Well, Mr. Washington did a fine job today for the first day in the hot seat, so we wish you continuous luck with that department.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman John Bennett, Chief of Staff. Before Mr. Washington departs, and I think the Deputy Administrator is nearby as well, you know, in our office, our job is to support our directors in facilitating their strategic objectives. And there was 3 things that I heard and also read in the memo that was submitted through my office to council for the workshop and the public. But the first one was the utility side of the underground but above ground access for possibly parks, and besides the utility of it and the underground utility aspect of their analysis, I just want to point out that I'm also consulting with them in my Homeland Security role for the city, and as it relates to our plethora and large-scale special events. I won't get into those details because some of them we shouldn't really convey openly like that, but we need to have some offline discussions about our community risk factors with some of those type of things. And we tend to get a little apathy going when we get 20 years away from some of our significant events. So more to come on that. Secondly, on the discipline, since HR was mentioned, which is one of my direct reports, I've been working with Ms. Austin and the department heads to make sure that not only is it fair and equitable, but it's also standardized. And I'm working with the 3 unions on that. So anytime an office or individual is going through discipline or the grievance process, even at the lower levels of discipline in the progressive realm, I talk to the president of the unions, and I also talk to HR to make sure that some of these incidents that are industrial driven as opposed to accidental are taken into account. So we want to make sure that we look out for the employees and give them the right tools to avoid discipline and prevent. And the very last thing I want to talk about is parking in some of these smaller streets. Councilman Carlson has been very important in communicating with my office over the years about parking in South Tampa. And I have worked with Keith O'Connor and Vic Beatty on some out-of-the-box ideas. We changed the ordinance to allow code enforcement to get more engaged. And so hopefully they're supporting Mr. Washington to help keep those streets safe for our solid waste frontline employees. So I just wanted to share those 3 other elements in support of Mr. Washington's journey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I see legal on the screen. Does she have anything to say? We can't hear you.
No, sir, I'm just here in case you had any questions.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. All right, any other questions, gentlemen? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Washington. Sal, did you have something to say? She popped up there, sir.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on. We'll go back to item number 5. If Ms. Nguyen, I heard she's on the 2nd floor. There she is.
Good morning, Council. Osea Nguyen, Administrator of Neighborhood and Community Affairs. And I understand that you have questions on item number 5 regarding the rental certificates program.
Mr. Defoe, you recognize?
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. So I can't remember when this started. It looks like June of 2020. So a little more than a year ago, we asked staff, and then ultimately I think it fell in Ms. Nguyen's lap to take a look at this rental certificates program. And for those who are not aware, the rental certificates program is, I don't know exactly how it evolved, but basically it's a program where folks who are operating single-family rentals and smaller rentals, duplexes and that sort of thing, have to go into the city's program, and they sign up. But as somebody who has a rental like that, single-family rental, I looked at it and I started asking the questions like, why are we doing this and what does it accomplish? Because I think that's really important that city council and all city staff ask that periodically. Sometimes these programs evolve and then they don't make any sense after a while. And frankly, when I looked at this one, that was my conclusion. But I'm not the expert on it, so we dumped it into Ms. Wynn's lap, and it appears that that staff has come to the same conclusion, and is going to perhaps abolish that program and modify it, and take the people who are working on it and have them do something more productive. So anyway, Ms. Wynn, I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but why don't you tell us your side of the story?
Yes, sir, Councilman Dingfelder. My side of the story is that we are in agreement that the program as it was is really not efficient. So what we are recommending is amending the program to one that will allow individuals, well, what we would do is that we will provide random inspections on programs. The bottom line is that most of the people are in compliance, and the ones to have the ones who are really in compliance to go and certify through in a program is not really efficient. The new program that we're recommending is that, again, getting rid of the self-certifying process. That process implies that the rentals have been inspected, and in fact, we do not inspect all of the rentals. We do inspect the ones that are complaint-driven. What we will implement is a proactive process that randomly selects the properties for inspections, and these properties will be selected through our business tax listing. Additionally, we will implement an online portal that will allow renters to submit complaints, and then we will go and respond to those complaints as well. So the program as it is now, as it exists now, will no longer be implemented, and we will implement it in an alternative program.
And one question from me, and I see Mr. Miranda has his hand up as well, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Wynn, I can't recall, is this program, do we need to modify an ordinance, or is this just a staff-driven program?
Now, excuse me, Kamaria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office. Yes, I will be in charge of drafting an ordinance to strike all provisions in the code that reference the rental certificate program. I will handle that. The current rental certificates expire, as stated on the memorandum, they expire September 30th, 2022. So I'll prepare an ordinance to strike the provisions in the code before the rental certificate expires.
Okay, perhaps sooner than later, so people don't have to angst about their obligations for next year. So I'll look forward to seeing that sooner than later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dingfelder, for bringing it up in the mannerism. Here's what happened, I think, in history. Used to have a rental certificate that the city inspected all rentals or some of the rentals on a yearly basis. However, the legislature 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, whatever it was, they changed it, where they will handle those 5 units and up. Am I correct so far?
Yes, the state handles the 5
Yes,
units
state,
and up,
yes.
yes.
So then what happened, that they were left with anything under 5. Well, I don't think they've done a good job in inspecting what they said they were going to do. And those units over 5, some of them are high rises, and some of them are 20, 30, 40 years old. Maybe we ought to, at least a courtesy for safety for our citizens, inspect those on a regular basis on and off years. No one's opposed to the rental certificate per se. But the problem is this. The problem is much larger than what we put on paper. The past administration had identified 232 units on a small area of West Tampa. You know what they were? There were houses that were cut up for rental properties, and they have 3, 2, and 4 units in one house. They don't pay any sales tax. They don't pay no ad valorem tax. They don't pay no rental certificate tax because they're all illegal. But we're afraid politically to do the right thing. And let me say that again. We are afraid to do the right thing. Some of them were so bold that they would have apartment A, B, C, and D on the door. So what we've done, and that's on a small unit, I would imagine there's thousands in the city. Right there and then, when you want to talk about doing something and saving something, the school system is in need of money for the teachers, for the bus drivers, that they can't pay them enough. The school system is losing, the county is losing, the city of Tampa is losing, and the taxpayers in general are losing because they're the ones that are subsidizing those individuals that are not paying their fair share. Not only are they not paying that, they're paying zero in income tax money that they are getting in rents because they don't file it. You can't file it. No one has a trace of it. And I've talked to individuals that rent these operations. They come to me and ask me, and I don't want to be a hero. I want to be part of an organization that helps solve this problem. They're paying, sometimes you go give them a check, they say they don't want a check, they want cash. And sometimes the unit is only the size of a what? What used to be your carport. On 9 or 10 by 16 or 18, you got a bathroom, a house. It's everything in there, including your whole household in an area that small, and for cash money. That's what's happening not only in the city, but in the county. I think this administration ought to get involved with the county commissioner, and I'm not telling them what to do. And that's not about UOC, it's about a whole system of corruption, not meaning to be corruption, but that's what's happening. There's not one block, and anytime anybody would say that I'm wrong, I'll get in the car with them and drive with them. There's not one block in West Tampa, more likely some in East Tampa, some in North Tampa, that doesn't have one house in a block, at least one per block, that is subdivided, collecting the money, not paying no ad valorem tax increase. Let's say a house, let's just say $1,000. Well, that becomes a rental property. It jumps automatically $3,000. So that's how it is. And if you don't pay by cash, you might say, bye-bye, we get somebody else. And since housing and any type of shelter is so expensive that they're afraid, the people that are renting are in fear of where they're living. Because if they don't pay by cash, bye-bye, we get somebody else. That way there's no trace. The Treasury Department ought to get involved. This is what we're doing. We're actually subsidizing, the taxpayers of this city are subsidizing the minority of the people who are making cash payments to them and not reporting. So there's where we're at. This is only, what we're doing is, and I run a trust that has some rental properties. I report all of it. What I'm saying is, you see it down the street and they don't report it, therefore their ad valorem taxes are still what they are. So the rest of the population is subsidizing that pot of money that goes to the school system, the county commission, and the city of Tampa. And all I'm asking is, let's bring ourselves to the fact that the benefit far outweighs me or anyone here getting reelected. It's about what we have to do, whether we like it or not. And I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm saying it's a system that is not being taken care of. And there's where we stand. We are divided on it, and we haven't made much progress in the 2 or 3 years that we've been here together. And we have to work to do this. Now, how I do it? It's cooperation with this administration. The administration has to have cooperation with the county, because the county's also, and the school board, because they're also getting shortchanged on it. That's the only concern that I have. You want money for sidewalks? Put 2 or 3 years, the first time you collect this money to build sidewalks, I'll show you how many sidewalks you can build. It will cost you nothing, because you're not getting it anyway. You want better school system, things supplies for the kids when they don't have it, the parents don't have it. Use some of that money for the first 2 or 3 years until you get running again, put it back in the general fund of all governments. And I'm not, Osea, this is not about you. It's about a system that I see that we are not solving the problem. Either we don't want to, I don't think that's the case, or politically motivated, you're afraid of it. You know, I'm gonna die anyway. So we gotta go on and do it. And like me, I ain't seen too many people that are not gonna die. So what I'm saying is, don't be afraid, just do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Ms. Miranda, you know, again, sometimes going to conferences, you meet people and you see ideas. And I have brought an idea back, and I've missed a meeting on yesterday to discuss about what you're talking about and some of the areas that we could be collecting some of these dollars that could go to housing, could do a lot of different things. So that meeting is rescheduled for Monday, so hopefully I can get some headway from Mr. Hero in reference to the program that we may already have, but maybe we're just not utilizing. I don't know, so I'm waiting to get more information on that, and maybe we can start doing what we're talking about, because you're right, people are getting over, and we're losing out when you talk about what we need to do. So hopefully on Monday, when I meet with them, have that conversation, and maybe they'll follow up with some of the council members on a plan, because my understanding, we may already have something in play, but we just haven't utilized it or don't utilize it. So hopefully we can look at that.
Councilman Goods,
Yes, ma'am.
I will be part of that meeting as well.
Okay.
And then Councilman Dingfelder, in terms of communicating out, our plan is to notice this through our social media, notice this on our website, so that once we get to September, that the property owners will already know, and they will not be expecting to recertify.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn.
Saw Chief Bennett come up on the screen. I want to make sure I didn't miss him. He had something to say.
Thank you, Chairman, Council. In support of Ms. Wynn, I just happen to have some information based on Councilman Miranda's comments. Councilman Miranda and I rode around West Tampa months ago and looked at what he was presenting. And I had a conversation with Mr. O'Connor about these things, and it was brought to my attention, and I'm not saying this as we stop trying, but it was my understanding that there was a major case brought forward on those investigations that Mr. Miranda spoke about, and we were unsuccessful. But I'm confident that that as we come out of the throes of COVID, that we can support learning from what happened in that case and maybe applying new opportunities to new situations. And I know with this legal staff, there's none better to take a second look at these things, because if we don't put some management under it, there are people that are being quietly affected by this. So I just want to thank the continued pursuit of that. And of course, we will all wrap our support around Ms. Wynn. So thank you.
All right, anything else on item number 5, gentlemen? All right, thank you, Ms. Wynn, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item number 8. Pardon me? Yeah. All right, motion to continue to February 24th,
So moved.
22nd. All right, Ms. Miranda moved it. Ms. Gallagher, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. All right, item number 9. Continuous again to February 24th.
So moved.
Second. Miranda's moved it. Mr. second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Item number 10.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I believe the staff for number 10 are outside, and I'll invite them in.
Mr. Chair, could I say something while we're waiting? My legislative aide just texted and said that she had her baby this morning, and the baby, and she went healthy. So please pray for her as she continues through this day. Thank you.
We have a presentation.
coming as well. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair, Council. Carol Post, Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. Thank you very much for accommodating our in-person presence. We have a fairly comprehensive presentation to present today, and given the subject matter, we thought the in-person experience would be helpful for the exchange and discussion. In addition, this does represent, as far as we can tell, likely the last City Council meeting for Randy Goers. It's more than 30 years of time with the city, and thought it should be recognized to again have that in-person exchange and experience with him. So I appreciate that. What this item is essentially, we would somewhat refer to it as somewhat of an annual report. It's a status update on the progress of our city planning department over the last year. Now, you've seen a lot of that progress over time incrementally, but this represents an opportunity for us to wrap it up for you, to reflect on the origins of the department, which dates back to summer of 2020, and when the department was organized under Randy's leadership. At that time, there was no one at the city specifically designated to oversee long-term city planning. So Randy organized the department and has pulled together subject matter experts, which is typically done in this case for best practices of an operation of this nature. And then he set out a roadmap. That plan was presented to the council in December of 2020, and much progress has been made. So that's what brings us here today, is to report back on that progress at a macro level, and to some extent in a more detailed level for some of the items. Because of the comprehensiveness of it, we actually, and for time management, we're breaking it into 2 separate presentations, and would invite your dialogue at the conclusion of the first before we transition to the second. And the first is really the bigger picture, reporting back on the progress of the activity that was set forth in December of 2020 as the roadmap. And then the second presentation will focus specifically on the neighborhood commercial corridor studies that have been done over the last year. So with that, I think we have presentations getting pulled up, item 10A to start, and I will turn over to Randy to walk you through that. I appreciate you letting us be here. Thank you.
Morning, Council. Randy Goers, Director of City Planning. The first presentation, as Carol has mentioned, is a summary of what we've done this past year, but it's also what we think is going to happen next year, sort of the work plan of the department as we move forward. Get my buttons here to work. Do I need to ask for it to be advanced, or do I have control?
You have IT and help Mr. Goers out. All right.
Okay, this is just the motion that we about a year ago in the December workshop, we came to speak a little bit about some of the items that we are going to present today. Next slide. This is our agenda today. I'm going to go over what we presented to you in December. We're going to talk about a new activity, a new show that we've created called the Planning Today for Tampa's Tomorrow Show, to inform residents of our planning projects. Then I'm going to give you a status of the parks plan amendments, the coastal area action plan, and the comp plan update. Next slide, please. These were the items, I know it's going back a year, but these were the items that we brought to you a year ago in that December workshop. We talked about our plan to create some 3D visualization tools, the comprehensive plan, updating the comprehensive plan through the MOVES project, the mixed-use plan category assessment, and the coastal high hazard area regulations. All of those are in progress. In fact, you'll be hearing about the mixed-use plan category assessment in your December public meeting, I think December 4th, and then I'll talk about the others as we move forward. There were a couple items that we concluded. I think a couple of those items were within meetings with council that we made no changes. Then we have a couple items that are going to be coming up in 2022. Next slide. Our planning today for Tampa's Tomorrow was an idea that sprung forth mostly because of the questions that we were getting from residents. And also we were finding that many questions were being directed to City Council about planning initiatives, and we thought that what we could do is provide an outreach effort to inform residents of upcoming planning projects so they understood what was happening and could get involved and stay abreast on some of the big initiatives. The show is produced and published through the internet once a month. Live. We have speakers that come in and we do a presentation. We interview those. It's on the third Tuesday of the month. After that, they're uploaded to YouTube where the public can view them at their leisure. We've done 2 shows. We're sort of just launching softly to get a feel of how the public is responding to them, how they're hearing about them, the kind of questions we might get. And so we're starting to build based on some of the information we're getting back from the public. So you can view those on the city's webpage or city's YouTube page through the city planning department as ways to inform the public on planning related issues. Next slide, please. On the status of the parks comp plan amendments, there were 96 total parks on the list that needed to be changed. Excuse me, the Planning Commission has already processed 53. There's 5 that will be in the next cycle. At least 38 remaining, which are not as easy as the first 58. They either have, we have to create legal descriptions. They're not descriptions that are created. Some of them are in the public right of way. We've actually found a few that are not actually owned by the city. They're owned by homeowners associations. So we're going to get through those. It's just that it's going to take us a little bit more time. I don't think you'll see them at the same pace that you saw last year, but I think you'll continue to see them next year, and it may be the year after as well as we try to work out exactly what is required in each of those situations. Next slide. The Coastal Area Action Plan, this is the plan that came out of the response of many of the issues that we heard in the South of Gandy area. Next slide. Give you a status on where we're at. I know it's a long time. This just gives you an idea of what the objectives of the plan are. That is, we want to revise the policies in the coastal high hazard area. We're going to do 2 community plans, the South of Gandy plan and a plan for Palmetto Beach. We're going to develop some projects that will ensure our lifelines or maintain our community lifelines and strategies to support vulnerable households. So that's the key objectives of the effort. Next slide. Where we're at today is you've approved the DEO contract that gets us secures the funding from the state. We have selected a consultant, it's Tyndale Oliver. They put together a very diverse and deep team. We're in the process of negotiating the contract with them. We were really hoping that we would get that contract before you, but not only do we have to finish the contract negotiation with Tyndale and Oliver, but we have to let the state review the contract. That's one of their requirements. So we expect that's going to take a few weeks as well. So we're targeting that we may be able to get the contract to you before the end of the year with the project starting in January. That project has a very large public engagement component. In addition to having a project website and an online system to engage residents in surveys, there will be a city council workshop early on to make sure that we've solicited what your issues or concerns or what you'd like to make sure that we're addressing. There's going to be a variety of stakeholder meetings, meeting with the public and other major stakeholders of the area. And then there's going to be, I can see what's underneath let's see, Ballast Point. Oh, then the 2 community plans. There's actually going to be, the 5 charrettes are going to focus specifically on the neighborhoods in the area to give each of the neighborhoods their voice in the process. And then we've also asked or put in the contract what we call knowledge sharing webinars. We found that through the process that are many times people, we would talk about planning principles, and our constituents would want to know more about what we were talking about. And so we plan to have knowledge sharing webinars where we can inform the public on issues that are related to this project. We may have a seminar on best practices in coastal development and showing what other cities are doing, or what really is the hurricane evacuation issues and how other cities are handling those. So the goal of those webinars are to better inform the constituency so they can better participate in the process. Next slide. Oh, I should say that planning process will take a year. We had scoped out originally 2 years with the state. The consultant feels they can get it done quicker, a year, maybe a year and a quarter. So it's going to, when it starts, it's going to start very quickly and have a very fast pace for the next year. The comp plan update, we've talked about this. It's almost like it's become the catch-all that every time something comes up, we say, let's just put it in the plan update. So I wanted to give you an idea of what you can expect to see over the next year. The next slide. We see that it won't be one series of meetings dealing with everything. There's a variety of different issues. What we see are certain plan amendments rolling out as they're developed. The 10-year water supply plan amendment is required by the state. That'll be the first one, I think, that will come before council in the early part of 2022. The other items you see, looking at the vision and the strategy, the sea level rise policies, the TOD project that we're working with HART. There's an initiative to create a one water element, similar to what Hillsborough County did, where they combined the stormwater, the wastewater, and the water policies all into one integrated element. Then, of course, the MOVES plan amendment, and then by the end of the year, when the Coastal Area Action Plan is finished, we will bring forward the policies related to that. And then there's other items that we've run against throughout the administration of the plan that we think need to be looked at, because there are questions that continually come up with how do they fit into the overall growth strategy of the city. And those are things like the future land use categories themselves. Over the years, we've tended to tweak those a little, and it gives us an opportunity now to look at them in depth to make sure that they really are the plan categories that we need to move us forward. Looking at the CBD periphery, urban villages, the TCA evaluation, and then some locational criteria. There may be others as we go through. The point being, next year is going to be a very busy year. I think you'll see it over each quarter, something coming before you in terms of the comp plan. It may extend into 2023 with some of these issues, but I wanted to let you know that we have been working, and with the Planning Commission, we do see a sort of a pathway or a schedule moving forward. Next slide. And I mentioned our planning today for Tampa's Tomorrow show. And this is one of the ways, excuse me, that we're using it. Stephen Benson, our chief planner, was on the last show. That was the October 19th show, where he did a presentation on the city vision and what is the difference between growth and change. And we talk about those two terms and where we see growth and where we see change occurring, and some of the other considerations. That sets up the discussion in the comp plan. That is on YouTube now, so if council would like to, you can see it in the on YouTube if you like. I know the Planning Commission will be asking you soon to schedule a workshop in the early part of 2022 to kick off that long-range planning process, so you'll be able to see the same presentation, maybe a little bit more evolved at that point. But this is how we plan to use the Tampa, the planning today for Tampa show, is to be able to provide residents with the feedback and some information on planning issues so they can participate in the overall process.
Randy, I have a question about that, sir.
Sure.
Because I was kind of bothered by it the other day, is that, and I don't know if other council members have seen this show, but I've had residents call me about this planning today, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But yet we have a show that's being dispersed to out there, but this council knows nothing about this show or it being aired to the public about what's going on.
Yeah, if I have one more slide, if I can wrap, then I'll come back and direct your question. Is there, I think that might have been the last slide. Is there another slide? Yeah, so this is really what our action plan for the department's action plan for next year is that we want to keep moving forward and complete the plan amendments for the parks. We want to obviously initiate the Coastal Area Action Plan. That's going to take up a very large part of our work program for next year. We want to build on the success of our Planning Today show, and I'll answer, get to your question in a second, Councilman Goods, and really make it more of a public information and engagement platform. And then we want to, I believe that is, update the plan based on the plan amendments. But to get to your specific question, we launched the show more like a soft launch. First of all, we had to figure out what is it that we need to do as planners to actually make this thing work, because we're planners, we're not in the business of doing shows. So we had to figure out the technology, make sure we had the right technology that we felt comfortable with, try to get it down into a format that we could work with. And so we launched the show. We sent out emails. I think you should have all, you should have all gotten emails, but we understand that if you're the contacts, you may not have connected the email on the show to the actual show itself. So right now we're in the process, each of the shows we've asked those that have tuned in for their feedback, how they heard about the show, what they thought about the show, and we're going to build upon that. But I recognize your concern and your comment, and we're going to work towards getting the message out for more people to know about the show, and then also making sure that we can extend the reach either through the live presentation or through YouTube or through some other support mechanisms.
I would say make sure the neighborhood association presidents know about the show, and that way when they have their meetings they might can share that or show the presentations. I learned about it through a couple of neighborhood association presidents, and they called me because they had questions. They had no idea what it was, and I didn't know, but I did get a response back from Frank Crum saying that it was a new show they put out, and I was kind of thrown back that council didn't know what program was going out to the community. But I mean, anything to communicate with the residents to give feedback is a good idea. Well, as council always said, we need to communicate, but I just hope that we really get it out there so everyone can have an input, not just certain communities. Everyone has an opportunity.
Chairman, thank you. I appreciate it. That's certainly our intent, and we had tapped into the resources that we already use for extending information about something like this. It's kind of akin to a town hall, and so we used the Tampa Cares email newsletter, the Neighborhood Association mail newsletter, or mail lists. I know the council mail list was used. LaShawn and I spent some time reviewing exactly who was invited and wanted to err on over-inviting. Given that it's virtual, we had a boundless opportunity to ensure listeners and viewers. So all those things can always be improved, but I think we cast about as wide a net as we could. And sometimes these things just take traction. People might have received something, not known what it was, disregarded it. But once we get some momentum, they'll recognize it and be able to tune in.
Mr. Dingfelder, you recognized?
Thank you. Just on that topic, Carol and Randy, I'm not familiar with that program. I will now be sure to watch it. I just want to make sure, from a content perspective, that we're all on the same page. Carol, as you know, especially when it comes to planning efforts, growth management issues, there's a lot of things that go on in the city that we don't have control over. But city council is a critical part of all those growth management and land use and planning policies, and that's the way the charter's set up, and I think it works well. So I just want to make sure that I don't tune in one day and see policies or discussions that haven't already been vetted by council. And I'm not saying they're there, because, like I say, I haven't watched yet. But I just hope that that anything that gets on there has already been something that council's agreed to in one form or another.
Well, and I for sure, I think the idea behind this, there were two concepts where this stemmed up from. One was there are so many moving parts going on around growth management and land use planning, and more often than not, what we were seeing was questions when we were having dialogue was, have you spoken to the community members yet? Have you shared any of this with the neighborhoods yet? And we were engaging in a number of one-off discussions that are often challenging for any of us to participate in on any given topic. So the thought was, if we had a more routine, regular, standard opportunity to share ideas and concepts that people could have calendared and be scheduled for, and have that begin to get, again, build some momentum about that being a resource, that would be more, I think, more of an opportunity to have effective outreach than trying to just plug in on an item-by-item issue. When we were having that discussion, Randy refreshed us that, I guess a decade or so ago, longer, that there was this concept, and at the time it had built up that momentum where people knew to go to that show to be able to get information and have some dialogue about concepts. So we kind of melded those two ideas, and it is certainly not intended to get ahead of any ruling or jurisdiction that you would have on an idea, but it is intended to start to bubble up ideas and concepts either as we're having them with you or in some cases before, so that when we come to you, we can say, we floated ideas or thoughts, and here's some of the thoughts we're hearing from the community. I think it would cover all ends of that spectrum. Happy to even share, I mean, LaShawn is really the architect of it. She's been the leader of both of the shows. So if there are topics that you'd like to see included, if you'd like to be a participant or a guest speaker, I mean, all of these things, none of this is there's not a template for it. It is meant to be responsive to subject matter that is most pertinent at the time, and it is meant to be as inclusive as possible to help set direction.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, one other question on specifics, and this is to Randy. Randy, on your list, on one of those earlier slides, you mentioned in 2022 sea level rise policy being developed, but then we're also addressing coastal high hazard area issues and policies, and the two, to me, are inextricably intertwined. So how are we dealing with that, and is that the cart before the horse? Concerns me a little bit.
I think we'll be developing a draft policy that will be incorporated into that process and be able to be refined. They are distinctly different in that when you're dealing with storm surge, it comes, it does its damage, and then disappears. When you're dealing with sea level rise, as it rises, it stays. And so the policies need to be looked at from a slightly different perspective. So we're going to provide a perspective on sea level rise. We'll integrate it into the coastal high hazard area study with the consultant, and then hopefully they'll be able to come back with a integrated policy for both.
Clearly, I mean, I hear what you're saying. They're sort of two different issues, but they basically impact the same parts of the city, perhaps in slightly different ways. But we want to just make sure that we have consistency between the two.
Yeah, they will be.
That's great. There, and Carol, this goes back to a discussion we had with you in your office a long time ago. I saw that long list of items. I don't know if you can put it back up or not, Randy, or I don't know. Are you controlling that?
I'm not controlling it.
Okay. Anyway, there was like maybe a dozen or so major policies that you guys are working on, but again, let's not get them all the way to ordinance form or whatever before council has some voice in regard to that. And Carol, you and I talk about that repeatedly, so I appreciate it.
You see us frequently, and you will continue to see us frequently, for sure.
Okay. And in regard to Randy's service, Randy, I only have one demand of you, that you come back next Thursday to receive your commendation for your 30-plus years of service. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. I will respond on a couple of things that you brought up. On the comp plan process, be assured that you'll be involved in the policy formulation. The comp plan policy update is different than the code development. because in the code, we're following directions that have already been given by policy. But when in the comp plan update, again, the Planning Commission will be asking for a workshop early on to lay out how that update will go in terms of the issues that are coming out of everything that we see as planners in the community, as well as you. And when it comes down to the actual policy formulation, you'll be involved, and you are the ultimate interpreter of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. So those policies will be your policies.
Thank you.
Anyone else, gentlemen? All right. Anything else random, Ms. Probst?
Just before wrapping that up, I did want to recognize that Randy pulled all of this roadmap together in just the last year and maybe 3 months, year and a half. And this execution that you're seeing is really under his leadership. As he transitions out, we will commit to a seamless carrying forward of those activities, but would ask you to bear with us as we stand up the team. We've got a great deal of talent there, but Randy will be big shoes to fill, and his historical perspective will be missed for sure. But we look forward to continuing to drive these initiatives forward and include you in that process. I think now then we're going to switch to transit to agenda item 10B, as we called it, which is a presentation on the neighborhood commercial corridors. Randy will give a little context for that and bring you up to date on where we stand and where we're taking that to the next step. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next presentation, please. Okay, next slide. Yeah. Okay, and this is, I think, this is just where the motion came from for today. Next slide. This is going back to the original motion made about, 2019, about the creation of the Neighborhood Commercial District Planning Program, about the creation of the program, and then doing some plans, and then coming back for council's input as we move forward. Next slide. Today I'm going to talk about the 2 pilot projects. I'm not going to go into a detailed presentation on each of the plans. Presentations that we gave to the community when in the last meetings, each went from 45 minutes to an hour. I think we can get those down further. I think at the end of this presentation, if council would like to have a workshop on both plans or either of the plans, I think we can do that. You just have to, I think, allocate at least 30 minutes for each one to make sure that they're presented adequately and there's time for questions. And they can be done at the same workshop, or you can split them up to 2 different workshops. But we'd be more than happy to, or the department would be more than happy to come back to do those detailed dive-ins or whatever. These were the study areas for each of the plan, the Palmacia plan on the left, the Main Street study on the right. We focused primarily on the commercial areas. I heard earlier this morning about the question of the boundaries. Throughout the process, we got questions about what the boundary actually meant. Boundaries where we targeted most of our time and energy and planning to look at the boundaries, but we always considered ideas and actions that would be outside of the boundary. In fact, the implementation plans for each of the studies are designed to accommodate ideas, whether they are in the plan right now or if they emerge as we go through implementation. So they're very flexible in terms of incorporating ideas if they're not actually in the plan today. They just have to be consistent, I think, with the goals and objectives of the community that we work with. Next slide, please. This is just an example from the Main Street plan for the number of people that we participated with. On the left, you see our key stakeholders that we worked with in terms of the other agencies. On the right were all the individuals that attended at least one meeting, and then we also had some stakeholder meetings where we got into a little bit smaller groups. These 2 plans started right at the time when COVID restrictions were at their highest, so we were constrained to really working only on the community meetings, only on the virtual meetings. We were able then to get with on the thanks to the Zoom technology, to be able to have one-on-one meetings or even some small group meetings using that technology. But both plans had a wide range of stakeholders that were involved in any of them, in one or more of the meetings. Next slide, please. This is an example from the Palma Silla plan. We had a partnership with the University of South Florida Architectural School, and they provided a lot of illustrations and concepts. It's just a concept of what they saw in terms of some of their inventory analysis, but it gives you an idea of the type of information that we were able to integrate into the plan thanks to the work of the school. And it just gives you sort of, again, some of the ideas that are expressed in the plan. Next slide, please. In the Palma Silla recommendations, there were 23 recommendations. They're fairly broad that address the 6 themes that you see on the left. Some of the example recommendations were to activate the Selman underpass, which is actually the Tampa Expressway Authority is already starting to look at plans and start coming up with concepts to try to make that more of a pedestrian-oriented space. They're also looking at some connections across the street to link that space with the neighborhood to the west. There was a recommendation for a bay-to-bay pilot project, and where this came from, several years ago, there was a controversy about what to do with bay-to-bay, of either to reduce the lanes, not reduce the lanes. It caused a lot of controversy into the community. That controversy, I want to say controversy, but those opinions, both one way or another, continued throughout our plan. There were many people in the community that want to see something changed on the street. There were also many people from outside the community that drive through that did not want to see anything change. So the recommendation is to do a pilot project where the Mobility Department can actually do a temporary street reconfiguration and test and see how the traffic flows, how the public reacts, how it works. They can modify it and so forth. And if it does work, if the community is supportive and it shows that it works, then the department can come back with an actual capital project for a long-term solution. If it doesn't work, if it creates problems, doesn't achieve what we're trying to achieve, then we know without spending a tremendous amount of design and cost into it. So that's one of the recommendation. Neighborhood traffic calming, several specific recommendations on how to reduce the amount of traffic or the speed of the traffic through the neighborhoods. There's a section on recommendations on the design and some of the land use policies or zoning policies or amendments to the zoning that could create more of a pedestrian-oriented or activating the streets. And that's where the design standards come from. And I'm not able to see what that last recommendation is. But there's gives you an idea, again, just the example of the recommendations in the plan. Next slide. When we get to Main Street had a different orientation and a different set of problems. And that was the one thing that was interesting about the two districts. They are two different communities, two different economic profiles, two different streets, the way they function, and very different community desires or priorities for their community. So in Main Street, the plan had 59 recommendations that were broken into 10 community themes that were very broad. I think they were much broader than what we saw on Palma Silla, mostly because the community had very broad expectations. We wanted to capture as many as possible. I can also say that at this point, about almost 48% of the recommendations are underway, and that shows us the benefit of the CRA because there was an implementation mechanism embedded in the process. I mean, Jesus was already ready to take some of those ideas and begin implementing them, not waiting until they were formalized. The next slide, please. This just is a concept to give you an idea of some of the recommendations in Main Street, the idea of redoing the streetscape. This is not exactly what the streetscape would look like, so I don't want to alert anybody, but the idea of, the problem was on Main Street is that there's many vacant lots on vacant, and stores that are vacant, and so the street is just basically dead and lifeless. So the idea is to introduce new structures on those parking lots and to create some new businesses, or have the businesses come back to life, and then redo the street for parking and trees and so forth. With the idea then the street then becomes a much safer place, much more enclosure, much more vibrant and so forth. Again, just the concept would need to be looked at a little bit closer. There's also an idea for an annual development forum. There are a lot of vacant lots in the Main Street corridor, and they're all just waiting for something to happen. In many cases, the property owner really doesn't know what he wants to do. He's waiting for something to happen. The development forum is similar to what the West Shore Alliance does, and what the Downtown Partnership does every year, to be able to tell their story and allow the marketplace or others to respond. So that same sort of concept could be done in Main Street, where an annual development forum would allow the CRA or the chamber in that area to bring together the property owners, investors, developers, and just tell the story, let the public participate, and then afterwards allow the partnerships or the networks to evolve afterwards. There's a need for parking. The community recognized early on that before they grow too much, they want to take a look at the parking to make sure they're planning accordingly. There's recommendations for festivals and events, and the idea to bring people to West Tampa, get people used to coming to West Tampa, and these are people from the community and outside the community, and trying to build that activity in the community. I'm not able to read the others that are just below it, but I know the one says improved parks. And these again are just some of the main recommendations in the plan, and when we come back, we'll be able to give you more details on that. Next slide, please. Both plans are on our webpage, the City Planning Department webpage. We provide some context for the plan, all of the documents that are available that were produced, and then the video presentations of the community meetings so people can get caught up. Next slide. So our current status, both plans have been completed. We've posted them on the website. We're developing, we have developed implementation plans. We're sending them, we sent some to the departments, ones that were in the early implementation phase, and we're continuing to update departments. And we're looking for the actual work plan. Some of these, if they're capital projects or capital ideas, will probably be items that will come up in next year's budget by the department. There are many items that weren't capital, but they were more organizational, and we would see those starting to move forward as well. What we've learned in doing these two plans is 2 plans were really too much for the department. It really drained a lot of our resources, as well as with the Planning Commission, and we would recommend moving forward to do only 1 plan a year, especially considering the work with the comp plan update as we move forward. Partnering with the Planning Commission and the MPO had great value because we were able to tap into their staff resources at that time. It's not the easiest coordination because it has to do with getting permissions when you're trying to use common websites, so we have to go through a lot of different ways to get each other the same information, or the old ways, I should say. We can't use the streamlined ways that we're all used to today. The USF collaboration was a particular value. They provided a lot of expertise in the area that we don't have it on staff, and that is the architectural design, the illustrations, and so forth. So we thought that was a very valued partnership. Let's see what else I can say there. And the CRAs have a built-in implementation mechanism. I did mention that. Jesus, again, is able to take the recommendations that we've given him. They were also, many of the things that the CRA was planning, we were able to bring into the plan, so they were able just to move forward a little quicker. With Palmacia, the department is going to need to take the role as the project owner and work with other departments to begin implementing things. But that's something that we have to work in through the work program. And I think we want to find, in doing these plans, is to find the solutions that will work in other areas. So, and specifically the areas along land use and zoning. I mentioned that there were some ideas in the Palmacia plan about some potential zoning solutions that could work. They could work in Palmacia, but we would like to come up with a solution based on Palmacia's experience. Could they work in other areas? So we're just not developing solutions for one area, that we can leverage that experience and develop solutions for other areas. Next slide, please. So where we're at, those were the two pilot projects and some of the things we've learned. This is the map of what we see as being potential commercial corridors or areas that could be looked at. We've got them shown by council district and also by CRAs. As we started looking at what would make sense as the next step forward, we identified 3 corridors that we think would be good candidates moving forward. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. 22nd Street, and this is the area in Palmetto Beach, south of Mariner Drive, or excuse me, Marconi Street to Mariner Drive. This has a variety of different commercial and areas which could benefit by some targeted strategies. Nebraska Avenue from Bush to North Tampa. This is a commercial stretch which is very similar to many other streets that were built, say, in the 60s, 70s, and more of the outer edges of the city. And then 15th Street from I-4 to Lake Avenue. Another street that has a variety of commercial and residential mix that we think would make for an interesting opportunity. As we looked at these 3 streets, and also these are two of these streets are in Councilman Booth's district, and one of the streets are in Councilman Vieira's district, which we have not had the benefit of the planning effort yet. So the next slide, please. When we looked at the 3 streets, we would recommend 15th Street. It has this sort of combination. First of all, it's a good street when we look at the street itself in terms of the road character, the sidewalks. It has the infrastructure that would benefit, we think, from additional planning support. It's got a good mix of retail and commercial and residential along the street. You have those residential homes that are just adjacent to the street. And it's as mentioned, close to the residential areas. It's got some active businesses, so there's some areas of the corridor that seem to be doing well, other areas that could use some support. During the presentation for the East Tampa strategic plan, the consultant identified 15th Street as an area of opportunity, but their scope isn't going to allow them to really look at it much more than just identifying it as an area. So we think this street would be the street that we would recommend moving forward in our next corridor plan. So our next slide, please. I thought there was one more. I thought there was another slide, but we're recommending that 15th Street be in the next corridor plan. And with that, I'll answer questions on
We have Mr. Citro first, Mr. Dingfelder, and then Mr. Carlson, Vieira. Right.
Thank you much. Mr. Goers, thank you very much for this report. You and your staff have done an excellent job on this. I'm in total agreement about 15th Street. It's about time. Nebraska Avenue has been a problem for many, many years on bringing businesses back. Also, Main Street. We're having multi-level income housing going in there. It was once a thriving community with businesses all along Main Street. And as we go into density, we're also going to have to start really talking about walking and biking and shopping within the areas that people are living in. My main question is the Bay to Bay underneath the Leroy Selman. There is a project going on there, new condominiums. They said they were going to introject some of that that's going to be going into the, underneath the summit. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm not sure what their level as they move forward, but they're coordinating with the Expressway Authority in creating a public space. From my last conversation, which has been several months, and I don't think it's changed, but Santiago Street is to be the street which is their high end pedestrian corridor. And so the concept was to link Santiago Street into that space under the crosstown and then provide a link into the neighborhood. It's a little tricky because the railroad tracks create the biggest problem.
Therein is my next question. Our good friends at CSX, how involved are they going to be with that area there? Is that going to be a hurdle that we're going to have to cross, or are they looking at us saying, yes, we want to help you with open arms?
The Expressway Authority is coordinating with them. It will be a challenge to continue to find the safest solution that provides the best connection at the cost that everyone can afford. I mean, that's just the realities of when you're dealing with train tracks and commercial and residential areas. So I'm going to say we're coordinating with the Expressway Authority. We know the Expressway Authority is coordinating with CSX.
Because I know our good friends at CSX did some revamping, and it got the attention of many, many people in South Tampa. So I'm hoping again that our friendship will be long lasting with CSX. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dingfield, you recognized.
Thank you, Randy, for your presentation. I did want to give a shout out to Mr. Carlson for initiating this last year, Bill, and getting these pilot programs cranked up in regard to Bay to Bay and Main Street. And I think it would be great at some point, one of our workshops to have two 30-minute presentations on what the suggestions and conclusions were for those two things. And y'all put in a lot of work, and I think council should reap the benefits of that, and perhaps more importantly, any folks who are watching council as well. Carol, in regard to, the CRA, Randy, you mentioned in Main Street, the West Tampa CRA includes Main Street, and so we can pick up some of those issues in terms of advocacy, in terms of expense, and get some of those initiatives done using the CRA as a mechanism. And we know the CRAs cover a fair amount of the city, East Tampa, West Tampa, downtown, et cetera, but then there's other places where we don't have CRAs. So we really don't have the staff to take the ball and run with. For example, in Palmacia, along Bay to Bay. And I do agree, by the way, the gentleman who said we should extend and make it a T to extend the study down there toward Pane Rustica, because there's so much activity, and there's even going to be more activity with the Ritz, construction down there, and all the people that are going to be moving in down there. So I think it's after you leave, but Carol, I hope we can addend the study to include that area, because that area down to the right, including Academy of Holy Names and all the traffic impacts down that the Academy creates, there's a lot going on down there. But my question to you, Carol, is in terms of funding mechanisms. You came to us indirectly from New York City, and I just Googled up, New York City has 76 BIDs, Business Improvement Districts. They gather $170 million a year to improve these type of business/neighborhood districts. We have, to my recollection, 2 BIDs. We have the West Shore District and we have the Downtown District. And they both do a good job, and they're both pretty large, frankly. But I'm just thinking in some of these smaller areas, not tiny areas, but smaller areas like that Bay to Bay corridor, that maybe that would really be ripe for a BID, for a business improvement district. And Carol, if you could take a minute or two, tell us your experience with the BIDs in New York, and frankly, from my perspective, I think they're a pretty successful operation. And like I say, we've had good success with West Shore and downtown.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the comments. I am familiar with the New York City bids. There are many of them. They run the gamut. They run the spectrum in terms of highly organized, well-funded, well-resourced, to less so across all 5 boroughs. And but within each of those, and I would say those that were most and continue to be most successful, they have a tremendous amount of resources that are derived from the businesses that are mandatory participants, and they fund them accordingly, and they have pretty well-developed operations. There's usually an executive director and a body of resources, and whether it be planners or transportation or other related subject matter experts within the team, and then they synthesize with their counterparts at the city. And so there is a lot of synergies that they build upon. I'm thinking of the Times Square bid, which is probably one of the most well-organized and entrenched, and is very successful at accomplishing their objectives. You probably watched over the past decade as Times Square has transformed from a morass of transportation into seating and pedestrian areas and all of those things. So you can see that they can be quite successful in even the most complex set of scenarios. Would be very interesting to explore that here. I'm sure the council member for that district would have some thoughts, and we'd certainly be interested to pursue that and having a discussion around it. Relative to this corridor plan, I had a couple of discussions with the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce and their involvement in it, their feedback with respect to it, and recognizing that they represent that business industry if you were to pursue a bid. And again, my experience has been that the most successful are the ones that are mandatory inclusion, if you will. That's how you really build the appropriate resources to make a difference. But we're open to those discussions. In the absence of a CRA or any other organizing entity that would help move the ball, it's certainly an interesting discussion.
Yeah. Just to follow on, Mr. Chairman, to create the CRAs, it's a lengthy process, and state involvement and county involvement and everything else. The BIDs is pretty much more local. I think we can do that by ordinance. Obviously, we want to get stakeholder involvement. Some people will grumble because it's a small additional tax on those impacted properties up and down those corridors. But at the end of the day, nobody. We re-up the West Shore District and we re-up the Downtown District every year, and nobody comes and complains. They just don't, because they're getting good benefit for the very small tax increment that we assess over and above their taxes. At the beginning, we're going to get we'll get a little pushback, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, like you said, Carol, that could create some staff in those areas to do that, because the city can't do it. The city is not funded to take care of these 20 different, little sort of sub business districts that we have. And I'm not saying we create 20 of these right away, but as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we are a growing city, and we need to become more sophisticated, and sometimes we need to delegate. And I think this would be a really healthy way of delegating some of these important matters. And wouldn't it be wonderful 10 years from now to create a BID and to look at Bay to Bay and to transform Bay to Bay and MacDill, that area, into a much more vibrant, safe area whereas Bill, as you said, where the neighborhood meshes more successfully with the businesses as compared to what it is right now. So, and that's just one example out of 20 across the city. So, I don't know if that's something y'all want to look into on your own, or maybe entertain a motion just as a little impetus That's your call.
I think we have a very good working relationship with the Downtown Partnership and with the West Shore Alliance. Both the leadership individuals there I've worked closely with. I know West Shore is going to be going through a transition in the coming months, but I think we'd appreciate an opportunity to explore that preliminarily, understand the challenges and the opportunities that they have encountered. And again, both of those I think are very well run. They have innovative ideas. They have great membership. They have great leadership that has forged their paths. So
I'll tell you what.
we'll
Why don't we do
we'll
this
do some
then?
exploratory.
When we come back with the 30-minute presentations, which will probably be in a couple of months, then we'll circle back on that idea.
It'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
Thank you, and I just want to thank Mr. Goers for, 31 years, but also in particular for doing the work of 3 or 4 people over the last 6 months or a year. I'm aware of the workload that you've been doing, and I appreciate you doing multiple projects at the same time, and I know you've had help, but thank you for doing all that. And a lot of compliments, some complaints, but a lot of compliments in the community about your thoroughness, the way you're looking at it, and for you tackling so much. Some people would want to do maybe less in their last few months. You took on a lot. I don't know how that compared to your workload before, but it seems like a lot that you were doing at the end here, so thank you. Also, to my colleagues, when we first talked about this idea a couple years ago, I proposed that we rotate and do one a year, and that I would make sure to come back if we did South Tampa first, that I would advocate that we did at least one in each district. Part of the big workload that Randy had is that he did South Tampa, West Tampa at the same time. I was going to make a motion to make sure we include East Tampa and North Tampa next, but you already did that, so I don't have to make a motion. So thank you for either doing that on your own or remembering that. I would suggest when we get back around to South Tampa, one area that really wants this is Port Tampa, and there's a historic kind of neighborhood commercial district there, and they really would like to engage in a process like that, and there are others that would like to do as well. To my colleague's point about CSX and the park or development that's going on there, I would just ask everybody to please make sure that we save space for the train station that hopefully will come there at some point. If we put a dog park there or some other kind of park, let's please keep in mind that eventually there will be a train station. When Ed Tranchik did the Regio Sprinter, what was that, 1998 or something, there was a station stop there. There was one on Howard Avenue, and eventually we may get it. We'll see what happens next year with the tax renewal. But I want to make sure that whatever we do now doesn't interrupt that process, because if we're ever able to get that, then that will be a big opportunity for folks. It also will be an opportunity for folks south of Gandy to get in and out of their community. My big question is, how do we do these faster? I didn't add up how many you had on your list. The planners I talked to, Linda Salsena and others, they say that there are probably 130 of these in the city that we could do. And if we do one a year, it'll take a long time for us to finish these. The Planning Commission originally had offered to, when we made our first motion, the Planning Commission offered to do these one a year for free. I wonder if it's possible to have our staff work with the Planning Commission and maybe do 2 or more a year. And if we talk about why, we see that residents, especially during COVID, are looking to improve their quality of life, include the neighborhood surroundings. They're walking more, they're outdoors more, they're pushing strollers, they're pushing wheelchairs, they're walking their dogs, and they want to have a quality of life that feels safe, that is conducive to making new friends and building their families. They also want amenities close to them. So this takes trips off the road. If there's a small grocery store they can walk to instead of driving, sorry Publix, but if they can, instead of driving a long ways, they can walk to pick up whatever they need at the last minute. And so there are so many benefits to this. We saw for a long time there was a focus on downtown, and we need to continue to support downtown, but we badly need to bring resources to neighborhoods. And I know it's always a struggle once we do the plan to bring the resources, as my colleague mentioned here, but it would be great if we could ramp up both and really focus on these communities. And the last point is that we talk about neighborhood commercial districts, and the commercial side is really important. If we do some kind of incentive program for the business part, let's please make sure that the most important thing is how the residents connect with it. It is an economic development opportunity, it's a business opportunity, but how do the residents connect with it? How do they walk to the resource? How do they get in and out safely? How do they get their schools safely? How do they connect with whatever resources and what amenities do they want? So that's it, thank you.
Spirit, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, just wanted to echo some comments that were made, including thanking both of you all for your hard work in this, Mr. Gowers. We just thank you for, I know we'll do this formally at another time, but just thank you for all your professionalism and public service. You know, public service is such a noble calling, and you do it well and you wear it well. So thank you very much for that. In this post, we always thank you for your constant professionalism. We're very lucky to have you. We're very lucky to have both of y'all. You know, I think these are three great areas that are highlighted here: 15th Street, Nebraska, 22nd. Obviously, Nebraska, an area within my district area there. Very, very ignored, very ignored historically, the Nebraska area. I mean, ever since, gosh, I mean, I grew up in Temple Terrace, so ever since I was a kid, Nebraska's always just been a troubled spot. It's just always been a troubled spot. And I know from talking to the folks there, either residents or businesses, any help that can be given out there is tremendous. I know recently we made some great investments for fire rescue, and in highlighting some of the challenges there with response times and workload, et cetera, also highlighted the great acute poverty that exists in this area. A lot of times when we talk about poverty, you know, there's Sulphur Springs, there's University area, there's Nebraska, where about 2 in 3 kids live in poverty in some of those areas. So I think this is a great benefit, and I just applaud the work that y'all are doing. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, anything else, Mr. Goers, Ms. Bowles?
Nothing from you. We'll take all the comments that you provided today. We'll incorporate that in our continued analysis of the program and how we can better adjust the program. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Item number 11. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Goose and Council. LaShawn Dock here with City Planning.
Good morning.
And if I may, share my screen, please.
Okay.
Okay, and do you see my presentation?
We see it.
Please.
She'll blow it up a little bit.
Full screen. It's not in full screen mode?
Yes, you're good.
It is? Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks so much. And Council, thank you for your time this morning. I'm here before you to discuss hours of operation and distance separation.
Okay.
And Council, in October, staff came before Council with the discussion of hours of operation, outdoor amplified sound, as well as distance separation. And Council, as you know, the three topics can take a considerable amount of time to discuss. What we decided is to actually pull out the discussion of the outdoor amplified sound. And we've had quite a few meetings here with Council, which resulted in the amended noise ordinance, which is under consideration currently. The two remaining items which have not been discussed, which we're circling back with you today on, are the hours of operation and the distance separation. So what I'm going to do, Council, is review with you the background regarding the alcoholic beverage sales and wet zonings, if you will, and then also discuss with you the hours of operation in both Chapter 14 and Chapter 27, and discuss the distance separation, and then we'll wrap it up with the discussion. So for alcoholic beverage sales, prior to 2008, alcoholic beverage sales were wet zonings. So they were processed as wet zonings, and you often hear that term sometimes when even referencing new requests for alcoholic beverage sales. The wet zonings did not require a site plan. It only required submittal of a survey. And at that time, for wet zonings being processed, the distance separation was 1,000 feet. And that was the distance separation which applied at the time. For wet zonings to be processed, because only a survey was required for submittal, oftentimes you did not have view of the site itself. And you may not even have the building footprint. So we couldn't consider the conditions of the site in review prior to possibly approving a wet zoning at a location. So in 2009, the wet zonings became special uses. The special uses require a site plan, and that gives a view of the site. You're able to control the conditions of the site somewhat. You can see parking provided and those conditions under the special use consideration. So the distance separation remained at that time at 1,000 feet. In 2010, the special use distance separation requirements were amended at that time. And I'll review that with you shortly. But it was amended to be considered based upon the geographic location within the city, and it was amended to 250 feet. So what I'd like to do now, council, is review with you the hours of operation as they exist in the code. So the hours of operation are located in both Chapter 14 and also in Chapter 27. So what you have before you now are the hours
Mr.
in
Chairman,
Chapter 14.
Could I ask a question real quick? You were talking about the distance issue. Did we finish the distance issue before you moved on to hours of operation?
No, she's gonna come back to it, she said.
I haven't gotten to the distance yet. I'm
Right.
sorry. I was going to go
okay.
the
All
hours
right.
of
That was just-
operation and then the distance and then circle back
Okay.
for questions.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I haven't done it yet. And so what's before you currently are the hours in Chapter 14. Chapter 14 contains 2 sets of hours, your business operating hours along with your alcoholic beverage sales hours. And also what's before you on the chart are the alcoholic beverage sales types. So in Chapter 27, the hours of operation are contained within the 2 special uses that are available in Chapter 27. There's a special use 1, which is processed administratively, and then there's a special use 2, and those are the ones that come before you, council. You have your AB nights, where you hear the special use 2 for alcoholic beverage sales. So you'll notice in looking at the chart, under our special use 1s, the one category with reduced hours, they are related to a restaurant classification. So our special restaurant is offered as a special use 1 in the code. It has reduced hours. It is an incentive to an applicant to apply for an administrative review, which will reduce their processing time frame. It's a 30-day time frame to process the special use 1. And also it does not require a public hearing or city council approval. It's done administratively. If it is a regular restaurant, then they come in through a special use 2. So next, council, I would like to go into the distance separation and the requirements. So for our special use 2, for alcoholic beverage sales, these are the classifications which require the distance separation. So the distance separation, as you can see, is broken out by the geographic location in the city. You can see the business centers, your urban villages, and the mixed-use corridors. They have the requirement of the 250 feet. And then to break it down even further, it's based upon the use to distance separation. So you can see it's not the same. Your urban villages, your mixed-use corridor, they require distance separation to different uses. But keeping in mind, council, at this time when the code was amended, the urban villages, the mixed-use corridors, these were added in under the alcoholic beverage sales classifications consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. So these urban villages, your mixed-use corridors, they encourage mixed-use development where you would have ground floor residential or you have ground floor commercial with residential above. And so the distance separation was amended at that time. You'll notice in the urban villages, there's no distance separation of residential because that mixed use is encouraged there. So in the rest of the city, the distance separation is 1,000 feet. And that's anywhere outside of any of those 3 areas within the city. And what I've done is included also a map of the urban villages, council. You can see these are our urban villages within the city. And then also our West Shore and our USF business centers. They're identified in this map.
Sean, go back to the last map.
Yes, absolutely. This is our urban villages.
And they're all 250 feet.
Yes, in urban villages, that requires a distance separation, I'll go back to that, of 250 feet from other AB establishments.
But not 250 feet from residential.
Mr.
Correct,
James,
not from residential,
Ms. Dox,
only
1 second.
because the development is
Ms.
encouraged.
Ms. Dox, 1 second. We're past.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Aranda. All in favor, second, Mr. Maniscalco. All in agreement?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 30 minutes. Thank you. Continue, stop.
So just clarify that, and I apologize for butting in. So in the urban villages, it's 250 feet distance separation between establishments that can be waived by council. But we eliminated in the urban villages the distance separation from those type of liquor establishments to residential. That got eliminated in 2010?
Yes, the urban villages and the mixed-use corridor villages, in the comprehensive plan, we encourage that mixture of uses.
Okay,
You
so
oftentimes see what comes before you with the ground floor commercial and residential above. So the intent is, we would anticipate that residential would be above the commercial. So in the urban villages, you have the distance separation just from other AB sales establishments.
okay, so go back to the slot. Go back to the slot.
LaShawn?
Absolutely.
Abby Feely, Development and Growth Management. I just wanted to add to that when those modifications were made, Councilman Dingfelder, we were seeing that every case that was coming before you was waiving that because based on the geographic orientation of those villages and those corridors, it was not practically achievable for those standards to be in place. So they were having to come through that whole process just to get a waiver that they never could have met the 250 to begin with, or the 500 or the 1,000, just because of the geographic. So it's a complement, both, as LaShawn was saying, to have those mixed uses, much like you see along Howard Avenue with the post development, or the Bula and Ava, where the residential is on top, and it could never be at 250 because they're located within the same structure, or they're in proximity to one another.
Right, but the problem with that is that now, a lot of times we, including the community, wouldn't see those at all in a public opportunity to make comments on those and or to try and establish some additional conditions like hours, like lighting, like noise, et cetera, that this council often does on behalf of that community. So I hear what you're saying, and I was here for those 8 years when, and you and I were both here for those 8 years leading up to the 2010 changes. But that, in my mind, and what I was going to ask you, LaShawn, if you could go back to the urban villages so we can all refresh our memories about what the urban villages are.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've got massive parts of East Tampa and Seminole Heights, West Tampa and Tampa Heights. I'm not going to mention Ybor City, Channel District, and and Central Park, because those are, to me, those are truly urban. But now planners have characterized these traditionally suburban type of areas in East Tampa, Seminole Heights, and West Tampa as urban villages. And in this conversation, we've said, oh, you know what? We don't care if you put that large venue establishment or small venue establishment or restaurant with alcohol within 250 feet of those houses, okay? And we're gonna just allow that as a matter of course. And I don't know if I was here in 2010 when that went in. I don't think I was. But I don't think it's good policy for the community. I'm not saying that there's no situations where, where it wouldn't, it could work. But what I'm saying is by making that change, and we've seen this pop up on occasion, by making that change, sometimes these establishments get placed in those areas, East Tampa, West Tampa, Seminole Heights, et cetera, very, very close to residential, and they have big impacts on the residences behind them. And I don't know what the intent, I don't know where it came from. I don't believe in looking backwards. But I think looking forwards, I think we should, address that issue. And if people have to bring some of these projects to council, so be it. And when they come to council, then we can visit some of those impacts. If they don't have impacts, fine. But if they have impacts, like parking back in the neighborhood, or noise, or lighting, or et cetera, those sort of impacts, at least council and the community can address those impacts before we approve those wet zonings.
Mr. Dingfelder, I'm glad you addressed that, because you look at the east side of town, that's what's happening. This urban village concept, that's just something people came up with to try to get some development in. But I just look at, I have all these liquor stores are right in neighborhoods. That's a problem for me. They're right in neighborhoods. Or you get these pop-up stores that are selling alcohol and becomes a corner hangout. Like I have at 15th Street and Lake, or I have at Nebraska and Lake. Or I look at 29th, or I look at, 22nd Street. The residents are now complaining, saying we've got all these alcohol establishments that are creating problems. Some of these places need to be on a major artery, maybe like ML King or some place. But some of these places right now are smack dead in the middle of where residential homes less than 200, and that was causing a problem. I just think that we need to address that to where that needs to come to us to get approval of should that go there or not. I just don't think that alcohol should be right next to residents. And that's what it has created for years in East Tampa. And that's why we have some of the issues and some of the addictions we have, because so much easy access to these establishments. And I know that from experience because I worked them. I don't know what the answer is right now, but we got to figure out something, because now the neighborhoods have become empowered now. And now they're no longer afraid to speak out about these issues. And now they're crying out, we need help to fix some of these problems, to be able to have better communities, safer communities, and take our communities back.
So, Council, I believe the intent initially was just to help avoid waivers requested to residential, with the intent that we'd have that mixture of uses within one property, which would contain both residential and commercial uses. But I certainly understand the concern. I hear the concerns regarding the placement of the commercial in the residential areas and with those uses. But keep in mind, these uses do come before council. It's just that the requirement of the distance separation, I was trying to go back to that chart, would only be called out as a waiver if it's to other AV establishments. But these all are required. They're all special use twos. They are required to come before council. Okay, and I'll continue with the presentation. What I wanted to do, council, is to take a look at our alcoholic beverage sales applications, just to look at our volume. And what I did was I took a 2-year snapshot, just looking at 2018 and 2019. This is the total number of applications which have been heard before council. This does not include applications which may have been withdrawn for various reasons, but this is what came before council. So we had 19 in 2018, and we had a total of 21 in 2019. So these are the cases that are on your night calendar, which we recently asked council, which are actually in process currently, where we put rezonings on the AB nights because we just don't have that volume of the alcohol. It is rare that we have a full night of alcohol hearings. So in taking a look at those 2 years, for 2018, for example, what I've done is just broken out the number of distance separations that have been granted, and also the type of distance separation requested. So for 2018, of the 19 that have come before council, 15 of those requested and were approved for distance separation waivers. And you can see, just in looking at both years, the distance separation that's been granted, most of the distance separation waivers are related to residential uses and then also to other AB sales establishments. Those are the two primary ones that are most frequently utilized. So council, in summary, regarding the hours of operation we currently have in process, which has been reviewed with you through our special use 1 process, where reduced hours are available for the restaurant classification. The special use 1 restaurant is a special restaurant and it has those reduced hours in the code. Also, for the distance separation, we reviewed that the distance separation is based upon the area. Outside of those areas which have been identified, those geographic areas, the urban villages, the business centers, the distance separation is 1,000 feet. But also we consider the number of applications processed annually. When we look at the AB sales for the special use 2s that come before council and the number that are processed each year, we've taken that into consideration. But most importantly, council, what we have considered is what is before you now, which is the amended noise ordinance. We know that that has been the root of some of the concerns regarding hours of operation, outdoor sound. We feel that this revised noise ordinance is going to give us what we need to be able to do better enforcement. So at this time, staff did not have a recommendation. We're recommending no further action be taken on the hours of operation. In the distance separation, we would like to give it time for the revised noise ordinance to be in place, and we can take a look at the effectiveness of that ordinance. And council, at this time, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. I'd like to have this discussion now.
I'd like to
and I think
give-
Abby has something to mention. Abby.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that in response to Councilman Good's comments with the package sales. So notice the applications that we talked about today were not package sale establishments. So the liquor stores that you're discussing that are next to the residential, that would not, if you go back to what requires distance separation, and it's not those retail establishments, nor do package sales allow for consumption on the premises. So I don't know that the matter that you're raising, which rightfully so, is an S1 or S2 issue. It appears it's more of an enforcement issue because there should not be consumption taking place at or on those properties if they're for package sale to be consumed off the premises. So making a modification to the distance separation or making a modification to the hours would not impact those package sale locations.
Abby, in regard to package sales, I think you're right. I don't remember in the last 2 years seeing package sales come to council. So therefore, they must be being approved administratively?
Some of those are just historic. They've been there. The properties.
No, I'm talking about the new. I'm talking about the new one. Anything new that's out there, are they just administrative? They're not council anymore?
It would depend. That's the part of the code I was just pulling up when Councilman Goods went to that question. They are supposed to be incidental to the convenience stores, and then it talks about, but I need to pull the use table real quick and tell you where those would be permitted.
But Abby, you mentioned enforcement. I'm just keeping it real. You said enforcement issue. Where's the enforcement? if that's the case. But I have neighbors complaining, and I know some of those would have to be grandfathered in because some of them have been there a long time. But I'm looking at, we talk about enforcement. There's no enforcement. I mean, we're now trying to do some enforcement of some of the problems that are causing a problem, but those are some of just regular AB alcohol and maybe beer and wine rather. But I'm just saying, irregardless of that, there's an issue with stores having alcohol in residential. That's the whole premise of what I'm trying to say. Alcohol being sold inside the residential zone. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there is an answer, but we got to find some type of solution to keep the residents from calling, because they're now calling about alcohol and people hanging out. And if we're not going to have enforcement, what are the stipulations we're going to put on some of these establishments now? I mean, it's a problem now.
So just to clarify a bit, residentially zoned property cannot receive alcoholic beverage permit. So the ones that you are talking about either were vested through a grandfathering from years ago, or they did change their zoning. I remember a few of them, but they were quite some time ago, probably about 12 to 15 years ago, where they did do a PD on that property that would then allow them to have or request the alcoholic beverage sales permission. So I'm not familiar with any that have come before you, as Councilman Dingfelder mentioned, in the last 3 to 5 years that are in proximity to. But, in preparation for today, in the hours of operation discussion and the distance separation discussion, we did not focus on the package sales. This was a motion that came back from, I think, about 7 or 8 months ago. That's been continued a couple of times that, we have prepared for you today. So if that's a separate discussion that you would like to have, I mean, we could provide additional information on that at a later date.
That'll be fine, Abby. That'll be fine. All right, gentlemen, it's getting late. I know we got some people who make some motions about some other stuff today, so let's go ahead and bring this in for a landing. Ms. Dingfelder, you recognized?
Okay, just very quickly, and I'm not familiar with this concept of restaurant versus special restaurant. LaShawn, can you enlighten me on that?
Yes. So within the code, we have special use ones, which are administrative reviews. And if you meet the criteria, you can apply administratively. So when the code was changed in 2009, what was embedded in the code was a special use one for a restaurant, and that is called a special restaurant. So if you meet the criteria in the code for the special use, you can apply for that special restaurant designation, and that has the hours which would apply to that particular use.
And those hours are what? 11 o'clock?
These are the hours. Yes. I'm sorry.
11 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday, and
1 a.m. Thursday
through Saturday.
Okay, and then the other restaurants that aren't special restaurants, and I would be curious, send me that criteria, I'm not familiar with it. So what are
Other restaurants, if they're not complying with those hours, they must come before you as a special use too and ask for your permission. And that's when they come in and those discussions ensue related to what their hours will be, what their intention is. If they're not willing to accept the conditioned hours, then it automatically becomes a special use too.
Okay, and then what the ones we do see are down there at the bottom: bar, lounge, small venue, or large venue, and it says must comply with Chapter 14, which is 3 a.m. 7 days of the week, as I recall, right?
There are some bar, lounge, and small venue that may come in as an S1 that are not required to come to you. There's two separate sets of conditions, but they do not have restricted hours under the administrative.
But what I'm suggesting, and maybe by motion, is that we modify Chapter 14 so that any new project that does come to council or administratively, with the, the default hours would be 11 p.m. Sunday to Wednesday and 1 a.m. Thursday to Saturday, and we would allow them to ask for more as an exception. So we reverse the mindset, because what happens is, and you guys deal with it. You see us wrestle with this issue. We see a potential problem. It's too close to a neighborhood. We say, what are your hours going to be, sir? Oh, we're only going to go till midnight. Okay, well then will you agree? Will you please agree to put that as a condition? And we have to beg them to do that. Okay, why don't we flip that around and make those special restaurant hours the City of Tampa standards for all establishments? And then if somebody somebody says, hey, I'm here in, such and such a place, and this is happening, and we don't bother anybody, and we want to extend those hours, then council would have the ability to extend those hours as an exception. I don't know how the rest of council feels about it, and maybe we can continue this discussion another day, but I think, we find ourselves in that begging mode, and I think it's just backwards. Mr. Moreno.
Sure, I'm not in disagreement at all, but let me say that part of this reason is that sometime during those years, there was council members who wanted to have it all thrown out, and that you can just get it, whatever chapter 14 said, from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. They wanted it 24 hours a day. And that didn't go, and this is a result of something that came out of that. That's what I think happened. But that's where we're at. All right, we leave this for another day.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Make the motion.
Yeah, Carlson, go ahead, and then we're gonna bring this up. Land and bring it back.
I would be in favor of some version of what Mr. Dingfelder said, just that it's better to have a standard that most people can live with, and then have people ask for more. But the other thing, and I don't want to open a discussion about this, but I also wish we had some version of what Yoli had proposed several years ago, of a business license instead of what bothers me is that this goes with the land in perpetuity, and I don't think we can burden future generations forever with something that may change depending on how the city evolves. And maybe it's possible to do a business license concurrently with something that goes in land use for a certain period of time. There are some cases that have come before us that maybe we would have said that we would have given a 6-month business license, but we wouldn't have put it in perpetuity. So on with that thing.
Chairman, I'm not opposed to that either. I think that the legislature is the one that mandates it goes with the land, and that has to be changed somewhere else other than here. They're the ones that said, I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's how it is, that the legislature doesn't give us a right other than you goes with the land. So there had to be some political operation sometime back that gave that to the legislature to do that.
Mr. Dingfelder, make your motion so we can move on.
Yes, sir. Ms. Feely, I think, is it in February that, is it our February workshop that we're dealing with some planning issues?
Yes, sir, it is. February 24th, we've asked for that to be the planning, zoning, and growth management workshop. I believe so far we have 4 items that will be discussed that day with you.
Okay, so my motion is that we would continue this discussion, and I'm going to give it a little more specificity, but we would continue this discussion to February 24th. And with the specificity I'm talking about is to explore this issue about hours of operation, and maybe switch the mindset as I described and Mr. Carlson elaborated, in terms of standardizing the earlier hours and making the longer hours exception. Number 2 is in regard to package stores, to visit this package store issue, and I say package store, it might be convenience store that sells that. And I'm not saying we can go back and undo,
Correct.
the stuff that's already grandfathered in, but prospectively, revisit that and make sure that we're doing a really good job on trying to rein these things in so they don't proliferate in the neighborhoods. Number three is in regard to that 250 feet, I don't think that should be an exception in certain of those urban service areas, especially those big, massive urban service areas of East Tampa and West Tampa. And maybe Seminole Heights too. I'm not really sure. I might defer to Councilman Maniscalco on that, but we can talk about that in February. And then finally, this issue, which is maybe a legal issue, Mr. Miranda and Mr. Carlson addressed, which is the big picture of whether or not these wet zonings have to run with the land, or can they be limited, by the owners. So those are four different
All right,
things.
motion on the floor by Mr. Dingfeld with 4 concepts, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate
Thank you,
your hard
ladies.
work.
All right, Ms.
Thank
Miranda,
you, Council.
you're up first.
Yes, sir. I have one item I'd like to put into the record. On Tuesday, October 19, 2021 at 10 a.m., the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee met, and they came up with a recommendation that was made by Nicholas Glover of District 1 representative and seconded by committee member Stephanie Pointer, District 3, that they were in favor of discontinue the registry for citizen homes, rental properties.
Motion received and filed.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry.
I was informed by Deputy Celine that you will need to make a motion to continue the police commendation for November 4th to December 16th.
So moved.
All right, recommendation, Mr. Miranda, second by Ms. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. What about this one here?
That just go into the record that they recommended discontinuing of the program.
All right, anything else, sir?
That's it, sir.
Mr. Dingfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shelby's provided me with my signed version of Form 8B, which was related back to, I think, October 14th, where I went ahead and abstained from voting that day, and I'll move to receive and file.
Second.
That's your copy.
Yes, Mr. Shelby.
No, that's fine.
All right, Mr. Dingfeld's motion, that Mr. Miranda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Anything else, sir?
Yes, sir. And a tremendous African-American attorney, Eric Griffin, who I actually had the good fortune of working with back at Carlton Fields back in the day. Sadly, he passed away a few weeks ago, and they're having a memorial for him this Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the Hillsborough County Bar Association. With your permission, Council, I'd like to present his family with a posthumous commendation.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Dingfeld, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Anything else, sir?
And the spelling on that is a little unusual, but it's Eric, E-U-R-I-C-H-Z, middle initial Z, Griffin, Jr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Carlson.
Yes. A few years ago, several of our colleagues were on council, and I think an issue was led by Yoli Capine, which was to identify the original Cuban sandwich as being from Tampa and what the sandwich was. The Tampa Bay Times did a front page story on Sunday saying that now Tampa was not the creator of the first Cuban sandwich, and they quoted a source who has written a book that includes a subject on that. I contacted him, and to defend the honor of Tampa, and before Miami or other places pick up and start hitting us with it, I would request that we bring in Andy Hughes to speak for 5 minutes next Thursday morning to tell us the truth about what he believes on the history of the Cuban sandwich.
Mr. Miranda, you don't know about the history of the Cuban sandwich? We gotta have a guy come in. You can't tell us what it is?
It's not made the original way, I can tell you that. None of them are.
Second.
Third.
Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Dingfeld. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we're gonna hear about Cuban sandwich.
And Mr.
But
Carlson.
I hope he brings some with him.
And your office will be involved in arranging that with the clerk's office?
What?
I said it's next week, it's right?
Yeah.
So it's a 1-week motion, but your office will coordinate with the clerk to be able to have that? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, sir? Make me want a Cuban sandwich now from Bocados. Mr. Maniscalco. Mr. Vieira.
Just really fast, if I may. Dr. Charlie Sand, who has done so much work during the COVID pandemic, I know some of y'all have met with him, as well as with the county. I know we're giving Dr. Jason Wilson an award for his work in December. I wanted to give something for him. It'll likely be off-site, but I just want to get the commendation in there, if I may, for Dr. Sand to be
All right, second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. Next
Thank
one.
you. And the next one is a sad one. Any of y'all know Deborah McCormick, Forest Hills? Yeah, very nice lady. God bless her. And she passed on about a week ago or so ago. She's a former president of Forest Hills Neighborhood Association. And, you know, she was a real firecracker, that lady. She was. You know, we agreed sometimes. Whenever we disagreed, she'd give me hell. She was always very nice about it, didn't take it personal or anything. But, you know, but she and I worked together on a lot of things, and she passed on. And so I wanted to give a commendation in her name at Forest Hills, if I may, next
Second by
month.
Mr. Dingfeld, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted.
I worked with Deborah on the golf course spraying issues. That was always big with her.
That was her passion, as well as Babe Zaharias, the woman, Babe Zaharias.
Right.
And then her father, Jack, who was a veteran of 3 wars and animals. She
Great.
was a
How many more we
good
got, Mr.
lady.
Vieira?
The what, I'm
How
sorry?
many more we got, sir?
Oh, 28. No, I'm joking. No, last one, if I may, is I want for Councilman Maniscalco and I on Thursday or Friday night to give a commendation to Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ron Wood. If they'll accept it, I'm joking.
There is absolutely no way to get close to him. And don't be surprised. Mick Jagger has been tweeting when, you know, every time they've been going to cities for concerts, and he's showing up at the most random places.
Yes, he is.
I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up to Arcoides or someplace in West Tampa for a meal and nobody recognizes him.
Oh, they don't recognize
That's what's been happening.
And if y'all go into the Stones concert, I know Guido and I are, but not together. We happen to be sitting close to one another. But I will try to wear. I have a Rolling Stone shirt that I've had
Man,
since.
cracking me up here.
I've had a Rolling Stone shirt that I've had since the 6th grade, and it still fits. Steel wheels. And if I can find it, I know I had it. I'm going to wear it. So,
All right.
thank you.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, very, very quickly. You met John Allen this morning, who's been a great worker for the Parks and Recreation Department. Give him an off-site accommodation in his giveaway on Friday.
All right, we have a motion and a second by the chairman. Mr. Marino seconded it. All in favor? Any opposed?
All right, last one, gentlemen. As you know, me and Mr. Dingford had the opportunity to go out yesterday and look at a property off of 47 Hillsborough, East Tampa area. It's going to be a fine project, I think, once the RFP is done to bring housing. But again, I received several calls of concern yesterday about housing. And again, it's saying, people are saying, well, you're building some things and you're trying to get some things in, but what about the people who are being pushed out, the people who can't afford to pay the rent? Or my rent has just gone up $600 and I was paying $9, but now it's gone up $600 extra. I got some information in my mailbox at the funeral home. I was up all night studying and researching what other cities are doing. There are other cities who have started to stop what I call the gouging. You know, I listened to the pastor this morning. He talked about we're a city of justice and we're a city that we don't prey on people. So everything happens for a reason. So last night I did some research and I found some cities that are doing, created what they call rent stabilization, where they're doing 3% a year to combat these high prices. It seems to be working, the stuff I've read, toward that 3%. You know, if a person moves out within that same year, they can't jack them up because a person moved out. They've got to keep that 3% for the year. I talked to Mr. Shelby earlier this morning about it, and there's some Florida rules on how things can be done in reference to rent adjustments. So I would like the legal department to make a motion that staff takes the research that I have provided to create a possible rent stabilization plan / orders for the city of Tampa. Several metro cities across the country have implemented such plans due to the increase of rental rates. Cities like Santa Ana, California, St. Paul, Minneapolis would like the legal department to appear at February 22nd workshop with some possible recommendations.
Second.
What day was that?
All
I'm
right.
sorry, Mr. Chairman. What day?
February 22nd, February 2022.
February.
24, 2022. I think this is very important
Is
to
that
find
workshop?
out.
That's the
Yeah.
workshop day?
Workshop, that way we can discuss here, and then we need to make some motions about moving forward with something, whatever the legal department feels coincides with our Florida laws, we fine.
Okay, we have a motion from the chairman, rent stabilization. We have a second from Mr. Miranda. Mr. Maniscalco. Okay. Any comments? And that would be February 24th workshop.
Yes,
Mr. Carlson.
There are a lot of individual second homeowners who put their life savings into individual rental units, and some of these programs hurt people who are middle class, lower middle class unintentionally. And so, I won't propose an amendment, but just please, as the staff is studying this, please try to keep in mind that we don't want to inadvertently hurt people's life savings.
So I guess the extension of that comment, and I thought about this a little bit as well. Mr. Chairman, would it apply? Would the concept necessarily apply to?
I want them to come back and give us the concept the other cities are doing to understand what they've gone through. They've already put it in place, and maybe those concerns are already in that. Or some of the stuff I read, they talked about certain issues with rental properties. They talked about these type of things. So we talking about apartment complexes. You talking about these other issues. So let them come back with their recommendations on what we can and what we can't do before we start doing amendments right now. So let's see what they have. Let them research those different cities, what our state laws are, because I know in some of these cities they put it to the voters and the voters voted it in. So it may come to this council may have to put it to the voters, and the voters may vote it in. And maybe they not. So let's see what the process is and let it play out. We'll go from there. But my thing is, we have a crisis. People are complaining about the rental crisis here. So it's my job as a council in my district, and people are calling to at least address the issue, and I can say I addressed it.
Mr. Chairman, I second that because you're only asking what we can do and we cannot do. So that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
Can I do a friendly amendment? I would ask, if I may, that the staff tell us what we not tell us what we can't do, but tell us what we can do. I'm joking. You say that all the time.
It's the same thing backwards
I
and
know.
forwards.
I'm joking.
All right, Ms. Zellman, you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't want to throw a wet blanket on this. We'll certainly do more research, but I just want to caution that I believe the Florida statutes, this is one of those areas where they've preempted local governments from being able to do any kind of rent control ordinances.
We've read it, Ms. Zellman. I've looked at some of it. So I've looked at it, what it has in there, and I think some of it goes down to the voters, to the voters in reference to it. The bottom section I read. So again, just bring the information back, and we'll look at it.
We'll look into it. I just wanted to caution you on that.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motions?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimous.
Move to receive and file.
All right, Mr. Brandon, move second file, second Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. We adjourn, see you at 5:01.